Chapter 749. Just like before, her voice was still as beautiful as ever. Soon, the entire venue fell into a state of intoxication. After the improvement of the physique-improving pill, Ouyang Shanshan's body was much better than that of other singers, so she did not show any fatigue after singing more than a dozen songs in a row. Qin Haodong watched quietly from below the stage. The beauty was as beautiful as jade, and her voice was beautiful, but he still couldn't understand why there was a little monk printed on the ticket, and what was the connection between it and the concert. Unknowingly, the concert had come to an end. Ouyang Shanshan went off the stage to change clothes, and the host went to the front stage. Dear singers, the next song will be the last song sung by Miss Ouyang Shanshan. Please listen carefully. Hearing that it would be the last song, the fans present had extremely complicated emotions, and some even shed tears silently. The little girl next to her cried with snot and tears. I don't know what Sister Shanshan is thinking. Why did she quit the music industry? Does she not want us anymore? Qin Haodong really didn't understand the thoughts of these fans, so he comforted her. In fact, you don't have to be so sad. Everyone has their own choice of life. Maybe Shanshan has found a way of life she likes more. Hearing this, the little girl immediately stopped crying, blinked her big watery eyes, looked at him and said, Do you think it's possible that Sister Shanshan has found the guy who is emitting smoke from the ancestral grave, and wants to get married, and have children with him, so she doesn't want us anymore? Qin Haodong hesitated for a moment and said, Maybe. At this moment, the lights on the stage quickly dimmed, and then the voiceover sounded. Once upon a time, there was a little monk living in the temple, and a princess living next to the temple. They were not far from each other. One day, her father took the princess to the temple to worship Buddha, and she met the little monk, who liked to knock on the wooden fish. Later, the princess often went to the temple to play with the little monk, and they became childhood friends. They grew up together, and were innocent. Seeing the story being told on the stage of the concert, everyone was a little confused. However, everyone could tell that the voice came from Ouyang Shanshan's mouth, so no one raised any questions, and no one made any noise. They all listened quietly. Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. The little monk was mentioned in the story. Was it related to the little monk on the ticket? At this moment, the voiceover continued telling the story. The young princess often told the little monk stories. The little monk knocked on the wooden fish for the princess to listen to. The princess knew that the little monk liked to eat sugar-coated haws, so she brought him one every day. The princess knew that she had fallen in love with the little monk. Every day, she would go to a faraway shop to buy the little monk's favorite candied haws. Unknowingly, they had spent 6 years together. The little monk's cultivation level was getting higher and higher, and the young princess was getting more and more slender and elegant. The little monk became a big monk, and the princess reached the marriageable age. Suddenly, one day, the princess's father came looking for the abbot with a serious expression. That day, the princess did not have the usual smile on her face, nor did she bring the candied haws with her. Seeing the little monk, the princess pulled his sleeve and asked, Do you like me? The little monk knocked on the wooden fish silently, and did not answer. Later, the princess was taken away by her father, and left the temple. Before leaving, she shouted to the little monk, I like you. But the little monk still sat there blankly, and the only response was the sound of the wooden fish. And this I like you was the last thing the princess said to the little monk. The hall with tens of thousands of people was still silent. Some people even felt the emotion in the story, and their hearts were filled with inexplicable sadness. Since the princess left, she never came to the temple again. The little monk thought that she was very happy, and kept knocking on the wooden fish every day. Until one day, the little monk suddenly heard the bad news that the princess was dead. She was wearing a red wedding dress, and died on the night of her wedding. The cause of her death was that a prince forced the princess to marry him. The princess refused, so the prince forcibly destroyed the princess's chastity. In the end, the princess resisted with her life. The little monk was heartbroken. He picked up the long sword and said to the Buddha in front of him, Since the Buddha didn't save her, I'll avenge her even if I have to become a devil. The next day, The little monk found the prince who forced the princess to die, and pierced his throat with his sword. But so what if he had taken revenge? The dead could not be resurrected. From then on, the little monk died of depression in the temple. That sentence, "I like you," it will become his lifelong regret. The story ended here. Although some people knew that this was the story behind a recently popular song, Ouyang Shanshan's emotional narration still made them burst into tears. The little girl next to Qin Haodong burst into tears and murmured, "It's so touching. That monk is so stupid. Why didn't he take the princess away earlier?" This story was touching, but it also aroused everyone's curiosity. What was the purpose of Ouyang Shanshan telling this story? Do you want to sing this song? Sure enough, the music started. The last song Ouyang Shanshan sang was the famous online song, "Save Me Not Save Her." In the past, her voice was known for being sweet and melodious, but now this song is full of desolation and sadness, making people feel extremely sad. The wind is still blowing. Messed up whose youth he grew his hair long. Put away the wooden fish. She no longer exists, under the Bodhi tree spent several more summers. I still popular? She is no more. The morning bell is ringing a few times. Not saving the flowers in the world. I also look down and smile. I don't see your long hair anymore. Ask Buddha with a smile. Save millions of people. Why don't you save her? This song was originally very sad and moving. Now with Ouyang Shanshan's performance, it was played to the extreme. After the song was finished, the eyes of all the audience in the stadium were wet with tears. At this moment, the audience fell into silence. The spotlight shone on Ouyang Shanshan's face, and her delicate face was covered with crystal tears. She held the microphone and said emotionally, "The reason why the little monk can't forgive himself is that this was a tragedy that could have been prevented, but it happened. The two people who loved each other couldn't be together because of the little monk's avoidance. In the end, they were separated by life and death. The little monk would rather give up his persistence and faith and become a devil to avenge the princess. It can be seen how much he loved the princess. But why don't you dare to face your love? Do you have to wait until the day I die to face my feelings?" This time, there was an uproar in the silent venue. The sad atmosphere had been driven away by the shock. Everyone understood that Ouyang Shanshan was going to confess to the person she liked. No wonder she spent so much time and effort to carefully plan this song. Oh my god, Ouyang Shanshan has someone she likes. Why didn't I know? My Shanshan is going to say goodbye to the music industry for that person? It's so hateful. What kind of man is he? He made my Shanshan take the initiative to confess. Can't he take the initiative? Although there were still tears on the little girl's face, her expression became excited. She hit Qin Haodong's shoulder and said angrily, "Who do you think won the heart of my goddess? This guy is so hateful. He didn't take the initiative to confess. If I knew who he was, I would cut him up." At this time, Ouyang Shanshan continued on the stage. "If there are flowers to be plucked, you should pluck them. Don't wait until there are no flowers. The reason why I named today's concert Blooming Flowers is that I want the love between us to bloom like flowers. Now I just want to ask, do you want to protect me for the rest of your life? Or do you want to wait until you lose me and become a devil?" After these words, the crowd, which had just calmed down a little, became excited again. "Oh my god, this lucky guy is actually here. Who is he? It can't be me. Is the goddess confessing to me? Dream on. How can you be worthy of our Shanshan with that naughty look of yours?" The little girl grasped Qin Haodong's arm tightly. It seemed that she was talking to herself or asking him, "Who do you think is the bastard who burned incense for 18 generations and made his ancestors smoke?" "It's me. I'm the bastard who burned incense for his ancestors." Qin Haodong smiled at the little girl, then gently pushed her hand away and stepped toward the stage. He had never thought about how to deal with the relationship between him and Ouyang Shanshan. But today, the girl had done so much for him in public, and he could no longer remain silent. The song just now also made him understand that it was better to grasp the present than to lose it and become a devil. Ouyang Shanshan stood on the stage. Because of the light, she couldn't see what was happening below the stage. She could only secretly guess in her heart what the man's reaction would be after hearing her confession. But after waiting for a long time, there was still no movement below the stage. As time went by, her heart became colder and colder. Although she was under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, she felt extremely lonely. Could it be that he really didn't love her, and was really indifferent to her confession? Just as she was getting more and more desperate, suddenly a clear voice rang in her ear. You don't need to be saved by the gods and Buddhas. I'll protect you for the rest of your life. These short words made Ouyang Shanshan's tears rush out like a flood bursting a dam. Her heart was filled with great happiness in an instant. He's here, he's really here. He loves me and he'll protect me for the rest of my life. Although it was a stadium with 70,000 to 80,000 people, the oath of love just now was clearly heard by everyone. That man is here. The man Shanshan is looking for has really appeared. Who the hell is he? Who can make Shanshan fall in love with him so much? When everyone came to their senses and looked at the stage together, they could only see a resolute figure holding Ouyang Shanshan's hand and walking backstage together. Ouyang Shanshan had many fans. Qin Haodong didn't want to become a public enemy because of her. Naturally, he wouldn't expose himself to everyone's eyes, so he chose to take her off the stage in this way. It wasn't until his figure disappeared that the little girl, who had just sat next to him, came to her senses. My God, no wonder he has 2 VIP tickets in his hand. It turns out that he is Sister Shanshan's boyfriend. This stinky guy, how dare he hide so much from me? Sooner or later, I'll get even with him. The little girl was so angry that she stamped her feet, but she suddenly realized that she hadn't even asked his name. Where could she find him? Qin Haodong took Ouyang Shanshan to a lounge backstage. They were still hugging each other, and their eyes were looking at each other. Haodong, is what you just said true? Will you really protect me for the rest of my life? Of course it's true, as long as you don't leave me. No, you're the person I love the most. I'll never leave you, Ouyang Shanshan said excitedly, and offered her lips. The two kissed fiercely. After a long time, they slowly separated. Qin Haodong said, You go back with me tonight. I heard this song by chance, and felt that I liked it very much. It was very suitable for the current writing situation, so I added such a plot. This chapter is not pretentious or face-slapping. It is a pure description of a relationship. I don't know if you like it. Chapter 750. Ouyang Shanshan said shyly, Not tonight. This is my concert. Although it's over, there are still many follow-up matters to deal with. How about tomorrow? I'll see you tomorrow. Well, pay attention to rest and don't tire yourself out. Qin Haodong knew that he couldn't help much even if he stayed. He kissed Ouyang Shanshan's red lips gently and left the venue. As he drove, he hummed the song that Ouyang Shanshan had just sung. Thinking of his reincarnation, he couldn't help thanking God for giving him a chance to be reborn. After today's concert, his mood had changed a lot. He didn't want to make any girl sad, and he didn't want to leave any regrets. It was already midnight, and there were fewer pedestrians on the road. The Tang sect was located in the suburbs, far from the stadium, and he had to pass a remote road on the way. He was driving on the road when he suddenly saw a champagne-colored BMW 7 Series parked on the side of the road in front of him. The door was open, but there was no one in the car. At the same time, there was a faint cry for help. The sound was far away from here. It came from a dense forest on the side of the road. If it weren't for his excellent senses, he wouldn't have heard the cry for help. It was a woman who was shouting for help. She was screaming miserably, and then her mouth seemed to be blocked by something. He parked the car on the side of the road. Since he had met her, it was fate. Naturally, he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. In the woods, a young and beautiful woman was tied up like a dumpling with a rope. Her mouth was stuffed with a towel, and her eyes were full of fear. Opposite her stood 2 wretched men. One was thin and tall, and the other was short and fat. At this time, there was a lewd look on their faces. They both had obscene smiles on their faces. The short and fat man said, Brother, I didn't expect to meet such a terrible woman. Which of us will do it first? The thin and tall man first gave a harsh lewd laugh. Then he said, We are brothers. Of course we will do it together. After saying that, the two of them unbuttoned their clothes and walked toward the woman. The woman let out a whimper and struggled desperately, like a helpless little sheep. This little girl is so beautiful. I've lived for half my life, but I've never seen such a beautiful woman. It's worth it to have sex with her once. As the short and fat man spoke, he reached out to grab the woman's chest. Right at this moment, a furious shout sounded out. Since you want to die, then die. The short and fat man was startled and pulled out a dagger from his waist. He looked back and saw a handsome young man standing behind them. The lanky man took out a switchblade from his pocket. Seeing that Chin Haodong was alone, Saber shouted fiercely, "Mind your own business, or I'll stab you to death." Seeing that Chin Haodong looked gentle and not strong, and that the two people on his side were holding weapons in their hands, and had an absolute advantage, the chunky man also relaxed. He laughed and said, "Kid, do you also want a share of the spoils? Don't worry, we'll let you have some fun after we're done." But before he could finish, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. Then he flew out and hit a big tree behind him. When he fell to the ground, the dagger was stuck in his chest. The short and fat man twitched a few times, and then stopped moving. He was as dead as he could be. The lanky man was completely scared. He didn't expect that Chin Haodong was so good that he killed his companion with one kick. Seeing this ghost-like young man walking towards him again, he could no longer care about the woman beside him. He turned around and ran, but before he could run 2 steps, he fell to the ground with a plop, and the spring in his hand fell to the ground. The knife in his hand had just pierced his throat. After killing these 2 people, Chin Haodong walked to the woman, reached out to pull the towel out of her mouth, and then pulled the rope on her body. "How are you? Are you all right?" The woman gasped after being released, and the panic on her face dissipated a little. She stood up from the ground and looked at Chin Haodong gratefully, saying, "Little brother, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I would have been ruined today." The woman's voice was soft and sweet, and her voice was very pleasant, with a touch of charm. Chin Haodong looked at her. The woman was about 27 or 28 years old. Her face was delicate and beautiful, and she had a unique temperament. Her figure was tall and voluptuous, with curves all over her body. She was wearing a long white dress that was already torn to shreds, faintly revealing her snow-white skin. As long as a normal man saw it, his heart would be moved. It was no wonder that those 2 fellows had evil intentions. "It doesn't matter. I'm just passing by. Since there's nothing else, I'll go back." Chin Haodong said, "Sister, it's so late. You'd better go now, or you'll be in trouble if you meet bad guys again." After that, he turned around and was about to leave. "No!" The woman screamed in horror. She suddenly rushed up and hugged his arm. The exaggerated curve of her chest was tightly pressed against his arm. Due to the violent squeezing, the shape of her chest changed dramatically. "Don't go. Don't go. I'm afraid to be alone," the woman said as she looked at the 2 bodies on the ground. Her face was pale and bloodless. "Well, let's go together." Chin Haodong also felt that he was a little thoughtless. This was just an ordinary woman. It would be strange if she was not afraid to face 2 bodies in the middle of the night. However, he still pushed the woman away a little, and then they walked to the side of the road. They came to the street light, which was much better than in the dark woods. Chin Haodong pointed to the BMW and asked, "Is that your car?" Under the light, the woman's expression was much better. She said, "It's my car." Chin Haodong said, "It's all right now. You can drive home by yourself." "No, you can't go. I'm afraid to be alone," the woman said as she rushed up to Chin Haodong again and held his arm tightly. Under the light, the woman's appearance looked more enchanting. Her frightened expression made people want to pity her. Chin Haodong secretly sighed. She was really a natural stunner, as if she had a kind of innate charm. He said, "It's all right now. What's there to be afraid of when you drive back?" The woman said nervously, No, I just had an accident while driving." Then she told the story of how she had just been tied up. It turned out that when she was driving past here, a black shadow suddenly flashed in front of her. She hurriedly stepped on the brake, but she still bumped into the man. Seeing that she had bumped into someone, she hurriedly got out of the car to check. She didn't expect that the other party was a blackmailer. Even so, she accepted it. She originally thought that it would be fine to pay some money, But she didn't expect that the fat man called a tall and thin man came over. The two men saw her, and tied her up, and pulled her into the bushes. They wanted to do something bad to her. Fortunately, she met Chin Haodong later, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. "Little brother, please let me take your car. As long as you send me home, you can ask for as much money as you want." Chin Haodong nodded. It was normal for a woman to be afraid in such a big thing. "You don't have to pay. I can send you back, but what about your car?" "It doesn't matter. I'll lock it and leave it here. I'll pick it up tomorrow during the day." The woman went to lock the car, and hurriedly ran back to Chin Haodong. It seemed that she was afraid to leave her here alone. After getting in the car, and asking for the direction of the woman's home, Chin Haodong drove forward. After leaving here, the woman breathed a sigh of relief, and got rid of the fear just now. "Little brother, thank you so much for saving me. My name is Shiyumi. What's your name?" "My name is Chin Haodong." The woman nodded and said, "Oh, little brother, those two people are dead. Will they be okay? If the police find you, I can testify for you." "It doesn't matter. I'll find someone to deal with it." Chin Haodong took out his mobile phone and called Hu Xiaoxian, asking her to ask someone from the Xianyuan pavilion to deal with the bodies. After he hung up the phone, Shiyumi asked, "Little brother, are you a policeman?" "I'm not a policeman. I'm a doctor." Chin Haodong didn't want the woman to ask too many questions, so he changed the topic and said, "Sister, it's dangerous for you to come out alone so late." Shiyumi said, "I went to deliver goods tonight, and came back a little late. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Anyway, you're a girl. You should be more careful at night. Why don't you ask your boyfriend to accompany you?" Shiyumi said, "I want to, but I don't have a boyfriend." Oh, Chin Haodong was quite surprised. Such a beautiful woman should have a lot of pursuers. How could she not have a boyfriend? "What about your family? Why didn't you ask them to accompany you?" Shiyumi said, "I'm an orphan. I have no family. I've been alone since I was a child." As she spoke, a sad look appeared on her face. She looked both lovely and pitiful. Chin Haodong only glanced at her out of the corner of his eye, and he had an impulse to hold her in his arms and cherish her. He couldn't help but quickly look away and concentrate on driving. This woman's charm was too strong. The woman lived in a luxury apartment, which was not far from here. They had arrived downstairs while they were talking. Chin Haodong said, "Sister, since we're already home, I won't send you up." Shiyumi said pitifully, "Little Chin, it's already the middle of the night. I'm really scared to be alone. Can you send me up?" "All right then, I'll be a good person to the end. I'll help you to the end." Chin Haodong parked the car and followed Shiyumi upstairs. When they arrived at her home, Shiyumi took out the key and opened the door. After pouring a glass of water, she said, "Little Chin, sit down and have a glass of water. I'll go change my clothes." Her long dress had been torn, and she really couldn't wear it anymore. After saying that to Chin Haodong, she went into the bedroom. Chin Haodong was indeed a little thirsty. He picked up the glass of water and carefully checked it. He was immune to all kinds of poisons, but he had no resistance to aphrodisiac, which could stimulate the human body's potential. He had suffered twice, so he had developed a habit of vigilance. After checking it with the original spirit, and confirming that there was no problem with the glass of water, he raised his head and drank it. At this time, Shiyumi changed her clothes and came out. She was not wearing a formal suit, but a blue spaghetti nightdress. The nightgown wasn't long, and it revealed her jade-like skin and sexy collarbones. The hem of the dress revealed 2 white thighs, which looked extremely alluring under the light. Chin Haodong said, "Sister, you're home safely. The task is completed. I have to go." "Little Chin, why don't you stay here tonight?" Seeing Chin Haodong's shocked eyes, Shiyumi hurriedly explained, "I don't mean anything else. It's just that it's too late. It's not safe for you to go back alone. I have 2 bedrooms and a living room. There's also a guest room. You can stay there." Chapter 751. No, I'm a man. There's nothing to be afraid of. After saying that, Chin Haodong turned around and walked out of the door, striding downstairs. Although Shiyumi was very beautiful and charming, He only regarded her as a passerby in his long life, and did not want to have any contact with her anymore. The next day, at breakfast, Qin Haodong told everyone about Ouyang Shanshan. Lin Momo said with a smile, "I told you, there's no need to go to a concert. From now on, Shanshan will be one of us. She can listen to any song she wants at any time." The little fellow also shouted excitedly, "That's great. I like the big star Ouyang Shanshan the most. She will be my mother in the future." Shi Weiner also said, "I've always been a fan of Ouyang Shanshan. I couldn't even get an autograph before, but now I can sleep in the same bed with her." Hu Xiaoxian said with a smile, "Sister Weiner, you may be thinking too much. Shanshan will definitely not want to sleep in the same bed with you." After she said that, everyone burst into laughter. Hearing that there was another big star's daughter-in-law, Chu Xianyue said excitedly, "Son, since you have confirmed your relationship, when will you bring Shanshan to live with us?" Qin Haodong said, "Shanshan said that she would come over after dealing with things today. It should be soon." Zhang Tiniu hurried in and said, "Boss, there's a woman outside the door. She wants to see you." Chu Xianyue said, "Maybe it's Shanshan. Let her in quickly." Zhang Tiniu turned around and walked out. After a while, he came in with a woman. This woman was wearing a white shirt and a pair of jeans. Her hair was combed into 2 braids. This somewhat outdated style of dressing exuded a fashionable aura on this woman. The little fellow stood up and shouted, "Auntie, you're so beautiful." Only then did everyone realize that the person who came was not Ouyang Shanshan. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. This woman was Shi Yumi, whom he had saved last night. He didn't expect that she would come again this morning. He was about to speak when he saw Yi Qing greet him excitedly. "Great designer, I didn't expect you to come to our house. Welcome." Seeing Yi Qing, Shi Yumi was also a little surprised. She said, "Miss Yi, I didn't expect you to live here." Yi Qing said, "What? Isn't the great designer here for me? I didn't know Miss Yi lived here." Shi Yumi glanced at Qin Haodong and said, "I'm here to see Mr. Qin." Yi Qing pulled Qin Haodong over and said, "Didn't you hear that the designer was looking for you? Hurry up and come over." Qin Haodong asked, "Sister, do you know Shi Yumi?" "Of course, Miss Shi Yumi is the big boss of Liusu Clothing, and also the chief designer. I'm a regular customer of theirs." "Oh," Qin Haodong nodded. No wonder this woman gave people a fashionable feeling. It turned out that she was a fashion designer. He said, "Sister Shi, what can I do for you?" "It's nothing much. It's just that I couldn't fall asleep after you left yesterday, so I made you a set of clothes as thanks," Shi Yumi said as she handed over a bag in her hand. After she finished speaking, all the women in the living room widened their eyes. Yi Qing was even more surprised and said, "Brat, didn't you say you went to the concert last night? Why did you go to Miss Shi Yumi's house?" "I did go to the concert." Qin Haodong hurriedly told her what had happened when he met Shi Yumi. Shi Yumi then said, "Mr. Qin saved me. I have nothing to thank him for, so I made him a suit." After figuring out the situation, Yi Qing said, "I see. Then let's see the great designer's work." Then she took the bag from Shi Yumi's hand and opened it. She took out a black suit from it. Qin Haodong said, "Miss Shi Yumi, in fact, you don't have to be so polite. Besides, you don't know my size. Will the suit you make fit me?" Before Shi Yumi could speak, Yi Qing said, "Brat, you don't know this. Shi Yumi is the top fashion designer in Huaxia. No matter who it is, as long as she takes a look at it, the size will be the same. It's not that exaggerated." Shi Yumi said, "I'm just guessing the size. Try it on and see if it fits. If it doesn't, I'll take it back and change it." Yi Qing directly took off Qin Haodong's pajamas and put on the white shirt brought by Shi Yumi, followed by the black suit. It didn't take long for Qin Haodong to put on the suit. "Papa is so handsome." The little fellow was the first to applaud, and the other women also exclaimed. This suit was perfect for Qin Haodong. Not only did it fit him, but it also set off his perfect figure, making him look more handsome. Qin Haodong also secretly admired her. He didn't expect that this woman could calculate the size so accurately after taking a look at him. Every profession had its own master. "Miss Shi Yumi, thank you." He didn't stand on ceremony and accepted the suit. "That's good. Shiyumi said. Miss Yi, Mr. Qin, I'll go back first. Qin Haodong and Yi Qing walked Shiyumi out of the door. When they came back, Qin Haodong said, Sister, how do you know Shiyumi? Is her clothing store very famous? It's more than famous. It's simply too famous. When it came to Shiyumi's Liusu clothing, Yi Qing's eyes lit up and she said, in fact, very few rich people buy those brands. Basically, they find special designers to tailor their clothes for them. Liusu clothing is the top in the clothing custom-made industry. It's no exaggeration to say that more than half of the rich people in the capital have their clothes custom-made from them. Qin Haodong looked at his clothes and said, Oh, I see. I have to say that her craftsmanship is really good. This dress is quite comfortable. Of course, Shiyumi is the owner of Liusu clothing and also the top fashion designer. She has won awards at the Paris Fashion Festival many times. Do you think the clothes she makes are bad? Qin Haodong said. Is she so good? Then this set of clothes must be more expensive than the famous brands, right? Yi Qing said. The fashion designers of Liusu clothing are divided into 3 levels. The most popular one is a 1-star fashion designer who is responsible for making clothes for ordinary rich people. Generally, the price of the clothes they make is more than 5 figures. The number of 2-star fashion designers is much smaller, and their level is higher. The clothes they make are more than 6 figures. As the boss, Shiyumi is the only 3-star designer of Liusu clothing. The design fee of a dress she makes is 7 figures. If she chooses the materials herself to make it, it will cost at least millions of yuan. Even so, the clothes she designed are still in short supply. Many rich people have to wait in line for more than half a year to get a dress designed by Shiyumi. Let me put it this way. Shiyumi's status in the clothing industry is no worse than your status in the medical industry. Are you exaggerating? Qin Haodong said as he looked at his clothes again. This was equivalent to wearing a luxury car. Yi Qing continued. You can wear the clothes designed by Shiyumi, not only because you have money, but also because of your status. There are many rich people in the capital, but only a few of them can wear the clothes made by Shiyumi. I waited in line for half a year before I had a dress made by her. She was the one who took the design plan, and other designers made it. Even so, this dress is still my collection. I only wear it when I attend a big event. Qin Haodong smiled. He didn't expect that his dress was not only valuable, but also of a high status. Brother, since you have a relationship with Shiyumi, you should talk to her and ask her to make more dresses for me. If you can marry her and treat her as your sister-in-law, that would be the best. Our family won't have to worry about clothes in the future. Yi Qing just said it casually, but her eyes suddenly lit up. Boy, why don't you give it a try? Shiyumi is really single now. Qin Haodong said with a wry smile. Sister, you can't ask me to chase after her for a dress, can you? If one day you like another female chef's dishes, do you think I'll marry her? Yi Qing reached out and pinched his waist. What's wrong? Shiyumi is a 1-in-a-million beauty. You seem to feel aggrieved. Qin Haodong said, It's not a matter of beauty. It's a matter of principle. Yi Qing glared at him and said, As if you are very principled. Then what's the matter with our beautiful women? Qin Haodong didn't know what to say. He looked embarrassed. Fortunately, the cell phone in his pocket rang at this time. He quickly took out his cell phone and ran aside to answer the call. Yi Qing didn't wait for him and went back alone. The call was from Su Hui. After the call was connected, she said, Haodong, where are you? Why didn't you come today? She was a little nervous as she spoke. She was really afraid that Qin Haodong would ignore her after what had happened yesterday. I was delayed by something here. I'll be there now. After last night's concert, Qin Haodong's concept of love had changed a little. He didn't want to let down the people who loved him, including the girl who had gone to the capital for him. He hung up the phone and drove directly to the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. At first, he thought that Su Hui called him because there were too many patients and she was too busy. However, when he arrived, he found a sign hanging on the door saying that the clinic was closed. What's wrong, Su Hui? Is something wrong? No, I just have something to do today, so I'm closed. Su Hui looked up and was immediately stunned when she saw Qin Haodong. "What's wrong? Don't you recognize me?" Qin Haodong was secretly amused. It seemed that it was true that Buddha needed gold, and people needed clothes. He was really handsome in a luxury car. Su Hui came to her senses and said with a little shyness, "No, I just feel that you are a little different today." "What's different? Have I become more handsome?" "Yes." Su Hui nodded with a complicated expression. The man in front of her was becoming more and more charming, which made her more and more unable to extricate herself. However, he didn't accept her feelings. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "What's the matter? Do you need my help?" Su Hui said, "Last night, when I was closing the door, I met a junior high school classmate. He has been working hard in the capital for many years. He said that today is a classmates' party in the capital, and invited me to attend. I don't think it's good to refuse, so I decided to go and have a look." Qin Haodong took over the topic and said, "But your classmate has always liked you and even pursued you. You think it's not convenient, so you want me to go with you, right?" "Yes." Su Hui nodded and said in a low voice, "I want you to pretend to be my boyfriend so that they won't pester me." "They?" Qin Haodong said with a smile. "It seems that there are many people pursuing you." Chapter 752. Su Hui said shyly, "Not too many. There are a few people at the party." Qin Haodong was not surprised by this. It would be strange if no one pursued a beauty like Su Hui. "What do you think? Can you go with me?" "I don't agree." Qin Haodong refused directly. Su Hui's eyes flashed with sadness, and even a trace of despair. She had done so much, but in the end, she still couldn't win this man's heart. He didn't even agree to pretend to be her boyfriend. But at this moment, Qin Haodong reached out and grabbed her shoulder. He stared into her eyes and said, "If you want to do it for real." Su Hui was instantly stunned. She couldn't believe her ears. Was he really going to accept her? "What are you talking about? Can you say it again?" Qin Haodong said with a smile. "Are you willing to be my girlfriend?" At this moment, Su Hui's heart was filled with great happiness. Tears of happiness immediately flowed down her white cheeks. Qin Haodong raised his hand to wipe away her tears and said, "Why are you crying? Don't you want to be my girlfriend?" I do. Su Hui nodded hurriedly, and then plunged into Qin Haodong's arms. She had waited for this day for a long time. Today happiness finally came. They hugged each other for a long time, and Su Hui said softly, "Is this true? I'm not dreaming, am I?" Qin Haodong cupped her cheek and kissed her delicate red lips hard. Then he said, "Do you feel it? Are you dreaming?" "Haodong, I feel it. It's true. It's not a dream. I'm so happy. Woo woo." Before Su Hui could finish her words, her mouth was blocked by Qin Haodong again. An hour later, Su Hui, who had dressed up carefully, took Qin Haodong's arm. They appeared downstairs of the Taotai restaurant together. Looking at the magnificent restaurant in front of him, Qin Haodong felt a little funny. Su Hui's classmates had set the venue of the party in his own property. However, this wasn't too bad either. The more he earned, the better. He walked into the restaurant with Su Hui. After taking over the Taotai restaurant and the Heaven Earth Trading Building, the experienced Uncle Wang asked the people in charge of the two restaurants to go to the Tang sect to meet Qin Haodong. However, the middle-level and lower-level employees didn't know that the young man in front of them was their boss. The two of them went upstairs and arrived at a platinum VIP room on the 8th floor. The private room was very big and could accommodate about 20 people. There were already more than 10 people sitting inside, both men and women, who were chatting in full swing. Seeing Su Hui enter the door, a man in a suit with a flat-top haircut immediately came up to her. He was Zhang Tong, who had invited Su Hui to the class reunion. When they were in middle school, Zhang Tong had been pursuing Su Hui, but there was no result. After graduating from junior high school, he followed his family to the capital and had made some achievements in the business world over the years. After meeting her by chance yesterday, he was immediately stunned by Su Hui's beauty, so he tried his best to invite her to attend today's class reunion. Of course, he had his own purpose behind the invitation. "Students, look, our great beauty Su is here," he said and greeted her enthusiastically. But then his face immediately darkened when he saw Qin Haodong next to her. Su Hui said. Let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend Qin Haodong. This. Su Hui, why did you bring your boyfriend here? Su Hui said. What's wrong? Can't I bring my boyfriend to the party today? If not, we'll go back. If these classmates really didn't accept Qin Haodong, she would leave without hesitation. They had just gotten together, and she didn't want their relationship to be affected by the pursuit of these boring classmates. Welcome, of course. Zhang Tong smiled awkwardly, and then let the two of them into the private room. Seeing the handsome Qin Haodong, a look of jealousy flashed across the faces of several other male classmates, while several other female classmates immediately screamed, Hui Hui, your boyfriend is so handsome. No wonder you have rejected so many people over the years. It turns out that there is such a handsome man waiting for you. Seeing these infatuated female classmates, the faces of Zhang Tong and the two male classmates next to him became more and more gloomy. The other two male classmates were called Zhao Pu and Jin Haiyang. The three of them had pursued Su Hui in middle school, but at this time, they formed an alliance in an instant. The three of them looked at each other and felt that they couldn't let this toy boy steal their limelight. They had to find a way to suppress his arrogance. Zhang Tong took the lead and said, Students, we haven't seen each other for so many years. It's not easy for us to get together today. I don't know what you are doing. I suggest that we introduce ourselves and get to know each other. If we can be useful in the future, we can help each other. After all, we have been classmates for many years. Zhao Pu immediately said, That's a good idea. Let's start with you. Zhang Tong said, My family has been in the capital for some years. Now we are in the medical equipment business. Su Hui, if your clinic needs anything, just tell me. All kinds of equipment will be provided free of charge. Of course, I also have many friends in the capital over the years. If you have difficulties in other industries, you can also turn to me. For example, the general manager of the Taotai Hotel today is my friend. If I didn't have some connections, I wouldn't have been able to book a platinum private room here. Yes, good. Zhang Tong has been doing a good job these years. He can be regarded as a respected figure in the capital. Zhao Pu clapped a few times symbolically and then said, I can't compare with a big boss like Zhang Tong. I have been in the entertainment industry for the past few years. Now I am working in the finance department of the Dongxing Entertainment Company. Jin Haiyang said, You have a lot of big stars in the entertainment industry, right? Zhao Pu said proudly, Of course. There are a lot of stars that you can't see at all. For example, Ouyang Shanshan, the big star who held a concert yesterday. She is the boss of our Dongxing Entertainment Company. You can see her at work every day, not to mention other stars. Awesome. That's awesome, Zhang Tong said and gave him a thumbs up. Ouyang Shanshan is a superstar in our country. If you follow her, maybe you will become a star one day. You flatter me, Zhao Pu said to Jin Haiyang next to him. It's your turn. Tell me, what have you been busy with these years? Jin Haiyang said, I'm also busy. I haven't made much progress in these years. I'm a supplier for the Heaven-Earth Trading Building. He said modestly, but there was an unconcealable pride on his face. Zhang Tong said, I've been in the capital for so many years, and I know the Heaven-Earth Trading Building. It's the largest shopping mall in the capital. You must be powerful to be a supplier there. You must have made a lot of money over the years. Jin Haiyang waved his hand and said proudly, It's nothing. It's only tens of millions of yuan a year. It's just a small business to make a living. Tens of millions and you say you can make a living? How are you going to let us live? Zhao Pu looked at Su Hui as he spoke, thinking that this little girl should be touched after hearing about his brother's achievements. But to his disappointment, Su Hui didn't even look at them. Except when someone talked to her. She had been looking at Qin Haodong next to her with affection. He couldn't help secretly making up his mind. He would seize the opportunity to mock this toy boy later. The self-introduction continued, and soon it was Su Hui's turn. I just opened a traditional Chinese medicine clinic in the capital, and I'm a doctor there. Great. After Su Hui finished speaking, Zhang Tong immediately applauded. Hui's grandfather is a professor at my medical college. I believe that Hui's medical skills are not bad. She will definitely become a famous doctor in the future. After that, he looked at Qin Haodong and said, "Brother, you look extraordinary. Where do you work?" Qin Haodong smiled and said, "I'm not your classmate. Forget it." Zhao Pu said, "That's not okay. We're finally sitting together today. Even if you and Su Hui separate in the future, we'll still be friends. If you're in trouble, just let us know. We'll definitely help you." Jin Haiyang also said, "Yes, we've all introduced ourselves. Are you afraid that they'll want to flatter you?" Although he said so, his eyes were full of contempt. Qin Haodong said lightly, "Then let me introduce myself. I'm Qin Haodong. I don't have a job now. I'm helping Su Hui's clinic." After he finished speaking, Zhang Tong and the others immediately laughed contemptuously. They had been busy for a long time, waiting for this moment. Zhao Pu immediately seized the opportunity and said, "Brother, you're young and promising. It's definitely not something ordinary people can do to help Su Hui. Excuse me, are you helping to clean up? Or are you helping to serve tea?" Just now, they had belittled Qin Haodong by showing off. But now their words had become naked ridicule. Qin Haodong clearly saw through the mentality of these people in front of him. He knew that they were obviously envious of him, but he just smiled and did not take it to heart. He didn't care, but Su Hui couldn't. She couldn't allow the person she liked to be insulted. "What are you talking about? Haodong is just being modest. His medical skills are very high, hundreds of times better than mine." Her words were completely from the bottom of her heart, but in the ears of Zhang Tong and the others, she was completely protecting Qin Haodong. They knew that Su Hui's medical skills were inherited from old master Su Hongba, but Qin Haodong was so young. How could he have such high medical skills? However, seeing that Su Hui was angry, they immediately adjusted their strategy and changed it to a long-term plan to catch a big fish. Zhang Tong said, Hui, don't worry. We're just joking with Brother Qin. Don't take it seriously." Zhao Pu also quickly said, Yes, I'm just joking. Don't take it seriously." After that, the other students also chatted for a while to ease the awkward atmosphere. After a while, Jin Haiyang looked at Zhang Tong's suit and said, "Your suit is good. How much did it cost?" Seeing the look in Jin Haiyang's eyes, Zhang Tong immediately understood his intention. Just now, they saw that there was no logo on Qin Haodong's suit, so they thought that it was a cheap product. They wanted to make a fuss in this regard and show off. Zhang Tong pulled his collar and said, "My suit is not too expensive. It's more than 50,000 yuan from Armani." Jin Haiyang said, "The quality of Armani's clothes is good. More than 50,000 yuan is not expensive. My Prada casual suit is more than 60,000 yuan." Zhao Pu also understood their intention. He pretended to be surprised and said, "You are all rich. A suit of clothes is so expensive. My suit is cheaper. It's more than 40,000 yuan from Versace." Hearing that their clothes were so expensive, other students from ordinary families sighed with emotion. A female classmate next to Su Hui said, "I didn't expect that we would all become rich after not seeing each other for a few years. I have to work for a year to earn this suit of clothes." Another classmate followed and said, "Yes, a suit of clothes costs 50,000 to 60,000 yuan. It's equivalent to wearing a small pickup truck." Jin Haiyang said proudly, "It's nothing. It's just a little money." Chapter 753. Seeing that it was about time, Zhang Tong looked at Qin Haodong and said, "Brother Qin, your suit looks good. How much is it? Where did you buy it? What brand is it? Can you introduce it to us?" Qin Haodong smiled. These people were really blind. Couldn't they see the quality and workmanship of his suit? They even wanted to compete with him in clothes. Weren't they looking for trouble? In fact, he didn't understand what Zhang Tong and the others were thinking. For small bosses like them, the most important thing was the brand of the clothes. They had never touched the level of handmade clothes at all. Although the quality and style of the suit made by Shiyumi were top-notch, they naturally didn't take it seriously because they didn't see the brand of the clothes. Although he thought so in his heart, he didn't want to compare with these people. It was too boring. He smiled and said, "I didn't buy this suit. It was a gift from someone. It's handmade and there's no brand." Zhang Tong immediately laughed and said, "It's handmade. Now there are not many people who make clothes by hand." Zhao Pu said. I thought Brother Qin bought this suit from a street stall. I was wrong. Even if it's from a street stall, it should have a brand. Jin Haiyang said. Brother Qin, it's a little disrespectful to wear this kind of handmade clothes to a classmate party. In the future, you should talk to Hui Hui and ask her to buy you a few sets of clothes with brands. You'll look good in them. These people's words were full of sarcasm. In the end, Jin Haiyang went even further and directly concluded that Qin Haodong was a toy boy raised by Su Hui. You've gone too far. Su Hui was so angry that her face turned red, and she was about to lose her temper. Qin Haodong patted her thigh and motioned for her not to be angry. At this moment, the door of the private room opened, and a little girl with glasses ran in. Sorry I'm late. The little girl was also Su Hui's classmate. Her name was Su Jejia. You're not late. You're a great designer. It's normal for you to be a little late, because you're busy with work. Zhang Tong said as he let Su Jejia in and then introduced her. Let me tell you, Jejia is now a great designer in Liusu clothing. A female classmate said in surprise. Jejia, it's true. The clothes in Liusu clothing are very expensive. Any set costs tens of thousands of yuan. Zhang Tong, who was very familiar with Su Jejia's family situation, rushed to say, of course, the clothing design of Liusu clothing is the most fashionable in Huaxia. Jejia is now a big designer, and her future is limitless. Su Jejia smiled and said, it's not that exaggerated. I'm still a one-star designer. Jin Haiyang said, Jejia, you are too modest. As long as you can enter the threshold of Liusu clothing, it is a success. Your monthly salary is at least 5 figures now, right? Su Jejia nodded. It's all right. Jejia, you're being modest again. We're all classmates. What's there to be embarrassed about? Zhang Tongji took over Su Jejia's bragging. Jejia's monthly salary is 70,000 to 80,000 yuan. If she becomes a 2-star designer, her monthly salary will be hundreds of thousands. Su Jejia said. The treatment of Liusu clothing is really good, but it's too difficult to become a 2-star designer. After all, the people who can enter our company are very outstanding. Now the competition is very fierce. Speaking of this, she sighed slightly. Recently, she had been competing with several other designers for the promotion of a 2-star designer, but now it seemed that the hope was very slim. Jejia, you are already very great now. Zhao Pu took the lead in applauding. They had a purpose for praising Su Jejia. At this time, Zhang Tong said, great designer. Brother Qin said that his clothes are also handmade, and they are probably worth a lot of money. Can you help me check them? Su Jejia had been surrounded by everyone since she entered the door. At this time, she saw Qin Haodong opposite her. She couldn't help but say in surprise, is he also our classmate? When did we have such a handsome classmate in our class? Hearing her classmate praising the person she liked, a charming smile bloomed on her originally tense face. Jejia, let me introduce him to you. This is my boyfriend Qin Haodong. Hui Hui, you are getting more and more beautiful, and your boyfriend is really handsome. Su Jejia suddenly stopped and stared at Qin Haodong with a dull look. After a while, she came to her senses and stood up from her seat. She walked to Qin Haodong's side and reached out to touch the black suit he was wearing. Her expression was as if she was touching a rare treasure. The female students opposite her were all shocked by her performance. What was going on? Was Su Jejia crazy and fell in love with this toy boy? Zhang Tong said. Jejia, did you see it clearly? You're not scared by this suit, are you? Is the workmanship too rough and the price too low? If that's the case, we can donate some money to buy him a set of branded clothes. Shut up. Su Jejia, who had been smiling since she entered the door, now stopped Zhang Tong with a stern look. What do you know, you bumpkin? This is a suit made by Shiyumi, the big boss of Liusu clothing and the chief designer. Zhang Tong was shocked. He didn't care about being called a bumpkin and said in shock, Jejia, how is this possible? Are you sure you're not mistaken? It's a masterpiece made by our boss. How could I be mistaken? Su Jejia turned around and said to Qin Haodong, Mr. Qin, can I have a look at your suit? Qin Haodong knew that it was impossible to keep a low profile now, so he nodded slightly. Su Jejia reached out to roll up his cuff, and saw 3 gold stars embroidered on his wrist. She immediately confirmed her guess just now. She raised her head and said to everyone, "In our Liosu clothing, if it's designed by a 1-star designer, there will be a silver star embroidered on the cuff. If it's made by a 1-star designer, there will be a gold star embroidered on it. In the same way, if it's made by a 2-star designer, there will be 2 gold stars embroidered on the cuff. And Mr. Chin's suit has 3 gold stars. And the only 3-star designer in our Liosu clothing is our boss, Miss Shiyumi. There's no doubt that this suit was made by our boss herself." After hearing her introduction, another classmate said in surprise, "The clothes of Liosu clothing are so expensive. The boss made it herself, so the price must be very high. Is it worth more than 100,000 yuan? More than 100,000 yuan? Su Jejia chuckled. It was really poverty that limited one's imagination. Our boss, Miss Shiyumi, is the top designer in Huaxia, and she can even rank in the top 10 in the world. She often wins the first prize in major fashion fairs. The design fee of the clothes she designs is more than 7 figures, and our boss rarely makes clothes herself. The price of the clothes she makes is at least millions. Oh my God, a piece of clothing costs millions. It's really extravagant. Just now, they said that their clothes are like pickup trucks, but this is a super luxurious sports car. It's really incomparable. It's true that there's no harm without comparison. Zhang Tong's clothes just now look awesome, but compared with this one it's trash." Su Jejia seemed to want to continue. She continued, "Even an ordinary rich man can't make our boss do it in person with tens of millions of yuan. So to be able to wear the clothes made by our boss is not just a matter of money, but a symbol of status." Zhang Tong, Zhao Pu, and Jin Haiyang were completely dumbfounded. They wanted to find a piece of tofu and kill themselves. They had never expected that Qin Haodong's clothes without any logo would have such a powerful background. One of the sleeves could buy a whole set of their clothes. If they had known this, they would not have competed with Qin Haodong on clothes. Wouldn't they be looking for trouble? After Su Jejia finished speaking, she turned to Su Hui and said, Hui, you're so lucky to have such an excellent boyfriend like Mr. Qin." Since they entered the door, Zhang Tong and the others had been trying to make fun of Qin Haodong, which made Su Hui very angry. Now Su Jejia helped her vent her anger, and she immediately felt as refreshed as eating ice cream in the hottest days of summer. "It's nothing, Jejia. You can find a better boyfriend in the future." Su Jejia hesitated for a moment, and then said to Qin Haodong, "Mr. Qin, can you do me a favor?" Qin Haodong also had a good impression of this little girl with glasses. He said, "If there's anything you need, just tell me. As long as it's within my power, I can do it." Su Jejia said with some embarrassment, "Recently, our company is taking the 2-star designer examination, and the quota is very tight. Can you help me put in a word with the boss?" She was a very smart girl. Since Shiyumi could make the clothes herself, the relationship between the two of them must be unusual. Zhang Tong and the others immediately widened their eyes. They hoped that Su Jejia had made a mistake. They hoped that the clothes were not made by Shiyumi, and they didn't want Qin Haodong to have anything to do with Liosu clothing. But they were disappointed. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "No problem. I'm happy to help anyone who is close to Su Hui." Being promoted to a second-level designer was a big deal for Su Jejia, but Qin Haodong didn't take it seriously at all. He directly took out his mobile phone and dialed Shiyumi's number. Shiyumi's pleasant voice immediately came from the other side of the phone. "Haodong, why did you call me so soon? Is there anything wrong with the clothes?" Unconsciously, she directly changed Qin Haodong's name to Haodong, which was more intimate. "No, the clothes are very good. They fit me very well." Qin Haodong said, "Here's the thing, sister. I have a friend working in your company. Her name is Su Jejia. If it's convenient, please take care of her for me." Shiyumi said softly, "Don't say that. The company belongs to me. It's not convenient. Since she's your friend, I naturally have to take care of her. Well, we're evaluating 2-star designers recently, so I'll let her be promoted directly." "Well, I'll thank you on behalf of Jejia, sister." After that, Qin Haodong hung up and put away his mobile phone. The private room was very quiet, when he was on the phone just now. Several people nearby heard the conversation between Qin Haodong and Su Jieji clearly. Su Jieji's face was full of excitement. It should be noted that there was a huge difference between a 2-star designer and a 1-star designer in Liusu clothing. Being promoted from a 1-star designer to a 2-star designer could be said to be a meteoric rise. Not only would their salary increase several times, but their status would also be greatly improved. Originally, she had no hope of being promoted this time. She didn't expect to meet Qin Haodong at a class reunion. He solved the problem that had troubled her for a long time with just a phone call. Mr. Qin, thank you. Thank you so much. She was so excited that she didn't know what to say. Su Hui said, Jieji, you're too polite. We're all classmates. It's only right for me to help you. Zhang Tong had organized this class reunion, but he didn't expect that the spotlight would be stolen by this toy boy in the blink of an eye. He immediately said sourly, Jieji, don't be too naive. There are many liars nowadays. Who knows if it's true or not? Maybe the person on the other side of the phone isn't your boss at all. This chapter is for the big boss, fat cat rolling around. Chapter 754. Su Hui said angrily, Zhang Tong, what nonsense are you talking about? Zhao Pu said, Hui, I think what Zhang Tong said is very reasonable. There are really many liars in society now. You'd better be careful. Don't be cheated by others. Jin Haiyang also said, I also think so. Isn't this kind of clothes without any marks just 3 golden stars? I can print a lot of them for hundreds of yuan. Su Jieji said with a cold face. What do you mean? Could it be that I misjudged him? Zhang Tong said, Jieji, you're just a designer, not an appraiser. It's normal for you to make a mistake. In fact, the 3 of them knew very well that this set of clothes was real, but it would make them lose face. Now they could only try their best to say that it was fake. Su Jieji was about to say something when her cell phone rang. She took it out and saw that it was a call from the company's administrative department. Although she hadn't answered the phone yet, she seemed to have guessed something and pressed the speakerphone button excitedly. Jieji, the boss just called and said that he would directly promote you to a 2-star designer. Congratulations. Submit all your materials to our administrative department tomorrow morning, and we'll handle the relevant procedures for you immediately. Silence. The entire private room was so silent that one could hear the sound of breathing. Everyone looked at Zhang Tong and the others with eyes full of ridicule. After expressing her gratitude, Su Jieji hung up the phone and looked back at the 3 people who were dumbfounded. What else do you have to say this time? Zhang Tong reacted very quickly. He quickly put on a fake smile and said, It's a class reunion. It's rare for us to get together, so I made a little joke to liven up the atmosphere. Since they're already here, I'll ask the kitchen to serve the dishes now. The dishes were served very quickly in Taotai restaurant. A few minutes later, the table was filled with delicious food that looked, smelled, and tasted good. In the general manager's office of the hotel, Li Xiuquan was sitting behind his desk, smoking and watching the big screen in front of him. As the general manager of the hotel, he was a very shrewd person. He knew what to do and what not to do, and how to make the boss more satisfied. Usually, he had a little trick at work, which was to keep an eye on the video surveillance during peak hours. Once there were distinguished guests, he would immediately serve them well. As long as these distinguished guests were satisfied, the reputation of the hotel would naturally be improved, and the boss would also be very satisfied with his work. Especially with the change of a new boss recently, he had not figured out the boss's temperament, so he was even more careful when working. He was staring at the monitor when a man and a woman suddenly appeared on the big screen. When he saw the man's face clearly, he was so shocked that the cigarette in his hand fell to the ground, almost burning his pants. Boss. In order to make sure that he was not mistaken, he quickly paused and zoomed in. Qin Haodong's face appeared clearly on the big screen. That's right, this is the boss. The boss didn't even give him a call. What did this mean? Did he want to observe his work in private and see how he performed? No, I have to find out which room the boss went to. I have to go there and perform well. This is a big matter that concerns my job. Thinking of this, Li Xiuquan kept retrieving the surveillance video and finally confirmed that Qin Haodong had gone to the platinum private room. Then he stood up and hurried out. In the private room, Zhang Tong adjusted his mood. He had to get back the face that he had just lost. He reached out to grab a bottle of red wine, opened it and said, "Students, it's rare for us to get together, so I specially booked this kind of red wine from a French winery from the hotel. This is an authentic Bordeaux red wine, which costs 30,000 yuan a bottle. Today, don't have any psychological burden. Just drink as much as you want. It's on me. Don't compete with me to pay the bill." After pouring a glass of wine for everyone, he began to show off and said, "Students, it's really not easy to book a private room in the Taotai Hotel today. If it weren't for the fact that I'm a buddy of the hotel manager, it would have been impossible." Jin Haiying followed and said, "I know that very well. The Taotai Hotel is the most popular hotel in the capital. Those who come here to eat are either rich or noble. Ordinary people can't book a room at all. Last time, a client wanted to invite me to dinner. He made a reservation here a week in advance, but he didn't even get a private room. In the end, he could only book a table. It can be seen that you really have a lot of influence here, brother." Zhang Tong glanced at Qin Haodong and Su Hui and said proudly, "Of course, Manager Li of the hotel and I are sworn brothers. If I call him, he will come over immediately to toast us." Su Jejia said, "Really? Our company has also had a dinner here, but we've never seen what the general manager looks like. Why don't you call him over and let us all have a look?" "Well, no problem. I'll call him now." Zhang Tong was just bragging. In fact, he just knew Li Xiuquan, and their relationship was not as good as he said. But now that Su Jejia was serious, he couldn't lose face in public. He could only bite the bullet and take out his mobile phone. He walked to a corner and dialed Li Xiuquan's number. "Manager Li? I'm Zhang Tong. I'm having a meal in your hotel. Do you have time to come over and have a drink with us?" Li Xiuquan had just come out of his office. He was in a hurry to see his big boss, so he had no time to pay attention to a nobody like Zhang Tong. But as the general manager of the hotel, he was very tactful. He said, "Oh, Brother Zhang, I'm really sorry. I have something to do outside. When I go back later, I'll definitely come to your place for a drink." After that, he hung up the phone directly and walked straight to the private room where Qin Haodong was. Zhang Tong hung up the phone and returned to the table. Su Jejia asked, "How is it? When will Manager Li come over?" Zhang Tong smiled embarrassedly and said, "Unfortunately, Manager Li just went out, but he said he would come back as soon as possible." Speaking of this, his expression suddenly froze. He saw that there were already 3 empty wine bottles in front of Qin Haodong. In order to keep up appearances, he asked for 5 bottles of this kind of red wine in total. He thought that Qin Haodong would not be able to drink it, so he would return the rest. But he didn't expect that in such a short time, 3 bottles had already been drunk by this man. Moreover, Qin Haodong's face didn't change at all, as if he didn't drink at all. His drinking capacity was too scary, wasn't it? But he couldn't care less now. A bottle of wine cost 30,000 yuan, so 3 bottles of wine would cost 90,000 yuan. Why did you drink all my wine?" Qin Haodong reached out and picked up the last bottle. "Mr. Zhang, don't tell me that you won't let me drink enough when you treat me?" After that, he raised his head and drank up the bottle in the blink of an eye. "Damn it, 30,000 yuan is gone again. If I had known that such a drunkard would come, I wouldn't have ordered such expensive red wine." Zhang Tong was anxious and annoyed. At this moment, the door opened and Li Xiuquan came in from the outside with a respectful face. He was stunned at first, and then he went over and said, "Dude, didn't you say it? It turns out that you were joking with me. I see. You must want to give me a surprise, right?" As he spoke, he wanted to go over and give Li Xiuquan a hug to show the deep relationship between them. But Li Xiuquan didn't even look at him and went straight to the dining table. Zhang Tong was stunned and opened his arms. He didn't know what Li Xiuquan was doing. He came to his private room and ignored him. Could it be that there were other acquaintances here? That was impossible. As the general manager of the Taotai Hotel, he was usually very powerful. The people here were all his classmates, and there were no big shots. How could he know anyone else except him? He turned around and was surprised to see Li Xiuquan coming to Qin Haodong with a flattering face. He bowed and said, "Boss, you're here. Why didn't you tell me? I could have sent a car to pick you up. How can this kind of ordinary platinum private room match up to your status? The best supreme diamond private room in our hotel has been reserved for you. If you need it, I'll ask someone to open it now." Qin Haodong originally wanted to keep a low profile, but Li Xiuquan took the initiative to come to him. He didn't say anything and said, "Forget it, let's stay here. The room is a little smaller, and it will be more lively for everyone." Dumbfounded. All the people in the private room were in this state, and they were all dumbfounded. Just now, Zhang Tong had bragged for a long time about how high the Taotai restaurant was. It was already very great for him to book a private room, but Qin Haodong turned out to be the boss of the restaurant. This kind of gap was like the distance from the basement to the top of the sky. Zhang Tong, Zhao Pu and Jin Haiyang were completely dumbfounded. They had always thought that Qin Haodong was just a toy boy with no ability, but in the blink of an eye, he had become the boss of the Taotai restaurant. This kind of identity made them have no courage to compete with him. Qin Haodong said to Li Xiuquan, "Today is my girlfriend's classmate's party. Later, we'll waive the bill for this table." Sure. Li Xiuquan said respectfully. "I'll ask the kitchen to serve the hotel's best signature dish right away. This kind of wine is a little low grade and doesn't deserve the boss's identity at all. The hotel also has some treasured 1982 edition Lafite. I'll ask someone to send it here right away." Qin Haodong waved his hand and said, "That's it. Hurry up and arrange it." "Okay, boss. If you need anything else, just let me know." After saying that, Li Xiuquan turned around and left the private room. He didn't look at Zhang Tong from beginning to end. Everyone could see that the general manager of the hotel didn't go out at all. It was just that Zhang Tong couldn't curry favor with him, and they were not sworn brothers as he said. This was the gap between them. Everyone could see clearly that the person Zhang Tong was trying to curry favor with was just one of Qin Haodong's men. The French red wine he had just shown off was not good enough in Qin Haodong's eyes, but now it was replaced by 1982 Lafite. He said that he would pay for this table of dinner, but Qin Haodong just said that it was all free. Zhang Tong stood there with a pale face. He was so regretful now. If he had known that this toy boy was the boss of the Taotai restaurant, he would not have set the venue of the party here. But at this time, everyone's attention was on Qin Haodong, and no one looked at him at all. A female classmate next to Su Hui said with a face full of infatuation, Hui, you're so lucky. Your boyfriend is handsome and rich. If only my future boyfriend is 1/10 as good as Mr. Qin." Su Jejia said enviously, Hui, no wonder Mr. Qin is a friend of our boss. It turns out that he is such a person." Su Hui took Qin Haodong's arm and said with a happy face, "You're right. It's my luck to find Haodong." At this time, waiters came in one after another, replaced all the dishes on the table, and then brought up 6 bottles of 1982 Lafite. Seeing this situation, Zhang Tong's expression became more and more embarrassed. Compared with Qin Haodong, he was too inferior. Add updates for readers with monthly tickets. Only the monthly tickets of Zongheng are valid. Chapter 755. After all the dishes and wine were served, the party officially began. Everyone began to eat and drink. "This dish is delicious. It deserves to be the signature dish here. It tastes so good. This wine is also good. It's worthy of being a 1982 Lafite. It tastes much better than the wine just now. It's all thanks to Su Hui. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to eat such good dishes and drink such good wine." Listening to the discussions around him, Zhang Tong couldn't bear to eat anymore. He put down his chopsticks and looked at Zhao Pu and Jin Haiyang bitterly. Originally, he wanted to humiliate Qin Haodong, destroy his impression in Su Hui's heart, and then create a chance for himself to pursue her. Unexpectedly, he failed to humiliate Qin Haodong. On the contrary, he was humiliated by Qin Haodong. Now, he had used up all his trump cards and completely lost the hope of pursuing Su Hui. He could only hope that these two people could save him some face. Zhao Pu also saw the situation in front of him clearly. It was impossible to compete with the rich. Qin Haodong was the boss of this hotel. How could he compete with him? It seemed that he could only change his method and suppress this toy boy. He cleared his throat and said, "Students, I've prepared gifts for you all. Ouyang Shanshan's autograph photos are one for each of you." He knew very well that his classmates liked Ouyang Shanshan very much. Her autograph photos were more useful than anything else. He had prepared these photos a long time ago. He didn't take them out just now, because he wanted to use them as a trump card. Now it was the time. Sure enough, when they heard that there were Ouyang Shanshan's autographed photos, everyone's attention immediately shifted from the food in front of them. "Zhao Pu, is it true? Do you really have Ouyang Shanshan's autographed photos?" Ouyang Shanshan's autographed photos are sold for thousands of yuan on Taobao. That's great. The girl I likes Ouyang Shanshan the most. With this photo, I can pursue her. Zhao Pu looked proud and took out a stack of photos from his backpack. "Students, the boss knows that I'm coming to the class reunion, so he specially gave me his autograph. Don't worry, everyone has one." After that, he began to distribute photos to the students present one by one. But when he sent them to Qin Haodong, he spread out his hands and said with a sinister smile, "Boss Qin, I'm sorry. There are no more photos for you." After saying that, he, Jin Haiyang, and the others all laughed. So what if you are a big boss? After all, you can't compare to the charm of a big star. Qin Haodong smiled and said, "It doesn't matter. I don't need it." Jin Haiyang said, "Boss Qin, are you going to tell us that you don't follow stars? I can believe that he doesn't chase after celebrities, but I don't believe that he doesn't like Ouyang Shanshan. If any man doesn't like Ouyang Shanshan, I can guarantee that it's a lie. Otherwise, there must be something wrong with him." Zhang Tong swept away his depression and said, "I heard that there is an old saying that the grapes are sour when you can't eat them. Some things can't be bought with money." Qin Haodong didn't want to argue. He just smiled. His cell phone rang. It was Ouyang Shanshan. "Haodong, I've arrived at the Taotai restaurant. Which room are you in?" Before coming here, Qin Haodong had called Ouyang Shanshan and told her to come here to find him after she finished her business. She happened to come here at this time. After reporting his room number, he hung up the phone and said to the people sitting at the table, "I have a friend coming over. Everyone, please vacate a seat." Now that he was the boss, everyone naturally responded to his words. The students moved to both sides and emptied a chair next to Qin Haodong. Jin Haiyang said discontentedly, "Boss Qin, although you are the host here, today is our class reunion. You are Hui's boyfriend, so we don't have to say anything. But if you ask an outsider to come, isn't it inappropriate?" Su Jejia said, "Jin Haiyang, what are you talking about? Haodong is Hui's boyfriend. How can he be an outsider?" Zhao Pu also said, "Yes, I think Haiyang is right. How about this? You can get another room next door. Anyway, it's your place. You can eat there. You won't disturb us, and we won't disturb you." Qin Haodong looked at Zhao Pu with a smile and said, "I can leave, but if I leave here, I can't pay for it. Do you think it's better for us to go Dutch, or do you want to pay?" Zhao Pu was completely dumbfounded. Although his salary was not low, it was only 20,000 or 30,000 yuan a month. However, this table of dishes was very expensive. The 1982 Lafite would cost him a year's salary. How could he afford it? Even if everyone went Dutch, it would cost about 100,000 yuan for each person. If he really proposed it, he would definitely cause public anger. Not to mention him, even Jin Haiyang and Zhang Tong, who were rich, shut their mouths. Although they had some money, they couldn't spend it in this way. Seeing that everyone was silent, Qin Haodong smiled again and said, "I know that today is a class reunion, but my friend has a special identity. I believe that you will definitely welcome her with both hands raised." Jin Haiyang curled his lips and said, "How is that possible? Do you think your friend is Ouyang Shanshan? How can she be so charming?" As he spoke, the door behind him opened. The waiter opened the door, and a beautiful figure appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, everyone was dumbfounded. It was Ouyang Shanshan. It was really Ouyang Shanshan. "Sorry to disturb you." Ouyang Shanshan smiled politely, then walked to Qin Haodong's side and sat down. She leaned against his arm and said intimately, "Sorry, I'm a little late." Qin Haodong smiled and said, "You're not late. You're just in time." At this time, the shocked students all came back to their senses. With a loud bang, they immediately surrounded them. The autograph photos that Zhao Pu had just taken out were thrown aside. Ouyang Shanshan was right in front of them, so no one cared about the autographed photos. "Shanshan, can you take a picture with me? Shanshan, can you record a short video with me? Superstar, please sign your name on my clothes." Everyone gathered around Ouyang Shanshan, jumping for joy. One after another, they put forward their own requests. The scene was chaotic. Qin Haodong stood up and said, "Don't worry, everyone. Shanshan is not in a hurry to leave. If you have any requests, you can put forward them. You can even take photos with me. But you have to do it one by one." Hearing what he said, the students immediately calmed down and lined up to take photos with Ouyang Shanshan. Zhang Tong, Zhao Pu, and Jin Haiyang looked at each other, and their eyes were full of shock. They couldn't figure out who this gigolo was, and why he had such a good relationship with Ouyang Shanshan, the big star. As for Zhao Pu, it was not as simple as being shocked. Ouyang Shanshan was his big boss, and she held his rice bowl in her hand. It seemed that as long as Qin Haodong said something, his rice bowl would be ruined. He regretted it. If he had known this would happen, he would not have provoked Qin Haodong. He should have flattered him more. Now he could only hope that Qin Haodong would forgive him and not care about his impoliteness just now. After a while, everyone returned to their seats with satisfaction after they had their photos taken. When the crowd dispersed, Zhao Pu came to Ouyang Shanshan's side tremblingly and said in a low voice, "Hello, boss." "Zhao Pu, you're here too." Ouyang Shanshan was stunned at first, and then said, "You're wrong. I'm just the general manager in charge of management. Haodong is the boss of Dongxing Film and Television Company. Come and say hello to the boss." Hearing this news, Zhao Pu's legs went soft. It turned out that he had been provoking his own parents. He really didn't know if Qin Haodong would ask him to leave with his luggage. "Boss, I'm sorry. Just now He was so scared that he couldn't even say a complete sentence. Qin Haodong waved his hand. He didn't want to argue with such a small figure. He said, "Go back and work hard in the future." "Got it, boss." "Thank you, boss." It was not easy for Zhao Pu to find this job. Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't argue with him, he was overjoyed and almost shed tears of gratitude. After this episode, everyone continued to sit down and eat. After seeing Qin Haodong's identity, Zhang Tong completely lost the courage to fight back. He sat aside silently and didn't say anything. But Jin Haiyang still felt a little unconvinced. He hadn't played his advantage yet. After a while, seeing that everyone was almost finished, he said, "Students, it's rare for us to get together, so I didn't prepare any gifts for you. Well, I'll take you to the Heaven Earth Trading Building to shop. As long as you want something, I promise you a 20% discount." After he finished speaking, Su Jiejia immediately stood up and responded, "Okay, I haven't gone shopping for a long time. I'll go with you today." Su Hui said, "Jin Haiyang, you're not bragging, are you? I heard that the things in the Heaven Earth Trading Building are never discounted." What she said was true. As the top consumer place in the capital, it was a major feature of the Heaven Earth Trading Building that goods were never discounted. Although the things here were expensive, you never had to worry about a discount after buying them. "Others can't get a discount, but I can," Jin Haiyang said proudly. "To tell you the truth, the manager of the clothing department of the Heaven Earth Trading Building is my second uncle. As long as I can find him, I can get a discount." Ouyang Shanshan didn't know that the Heaven Earth Trading Building was a dowry given to Qin Haodong by the Wei family. She took his arm and said, "Let's go shopping. I haven't gone shopping for a long time." Qin Haodong said, "Since everyone is in such a good mood, let's go shopping together." Half an hour later, they arrived at the Heaven Earth Trading Building together. It was a woman's nature to love shopping. When they arrived here, the female students were so excited that they began to shop around. Hearing that they could get a 20% discount, The other male students also wanted to seize this opportunity to buy something for the girls they liked. They also looked around and chose the goods they could accept. 2 hours later, everyone had chosen the goods they liked and turned to look for Jin Haiyang. Su Jejia said, "I've already chosen the clothes I like. When will I pay?" Jin Haodong said with a smile, "Great designer, you make clothes yourself. Why do you still buy other people's clothes?" Su Jejia said, "That's different. Everyone's clothes have different styles. I can't always wear clothes designed by myself. It's so monotonous." Seeing that everyone was surrounding him, Jin Haiyang glanced at Jin Haodong and said proudly, "Don't worry, I'll call my uncle now and ask him to come and give you a discount." Then he took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. Soon a middle-aged man in his 50s came over. Chapter 756. This middle-aged man was the manager of the clothing department, Wu Dafu. "Uncle, you're here." Jin Haiyang immediately ran over and took Wu Dafu's hand. He turned to everyone and said, "Students, let me introduce you. This is my uncle. He's in charge of the entire clothing department of the mall." Everyone came over to say hello to Wu Dafu. Wu Dafu nodded and said, "You're all Haiyang's classmates. Welcome to my shop." Jin Haiyang said, "Uncle, everyone has chosen something. Please give us a discount." Wu Dafu said, "Since Haiyang has spoken, then we'll give you a 20% discount." "Thank you, uncle," Jin Haiyang said with a smile. It was definitely something to be proud of to be able to get a 20% discount in the Heaven Earth Trading Building. He turned to the others and said, "Everyone come with me and pay together." "Wait a minute." Jin Haodong stopped Jin Haiyang and said to Wu Dafu, "Manager Wu, I want to ask, are the things we got at a 20% discount authentic?" Wu Dafu's face darkened. He felt that Jin Haiyang was too ignorant, but he still said patiently, "Don't worry, young man. Although we gave you a 20% discount, the goods are from the mall. They're absolutely authentic." Then he said to the cashier at the cashier's desk, "Xiao Wang, these people are my nephew's classmates. We'll give them a 20% discount." The cashier said, "Okay, Manager Wu." Su Jejia had already gotten the shopping receipt and was about to go forward to pay. Jin Haodong stopped her and turned to Wu Dafu and said, "Manager Wu, I've long heard that there's no discount in the Heaven Earth Trading Building. Are you violating the rules?" Hearing this, Wu Dafu suddenly became angry and said to Jin Haiyang, "Haiyang, what's wrong with your classmate? Is he out of his mind? I'm giving him a discount. Why is he so troublesome?" Jin Haiyang was also unhappy and said to Jin Haodong, "Are you deliberately making trouble? Don't you want everyone to buy things at a discount?" Jin Haodong said lightly, "It's a good thing to give students discounts, but I don't want you to use my money to give them discounts." The Heaven Earth Trading Building was now under his name. Wu Dafu and Jin Haiyang's behavior was no different from stealing his money. In other words, they were using his money to do favors. However, Jin Haiyang didn't know this. After hearing this, he immediately laughed and said, "Is there something wrong with your head? I'll return your money. What does this shopping mall have to do with you? Don't tell me this is also your property." Jin Haodong said, "You're right. This is my property." Jin Haiyang said, "You're bragging, right? Do you know how much this Heaven and Earth Trading Building is worth? It's still your property. Dream on." Jin Haodong ignored him and turned to Wu Dafu and said, "To put it mildly, what you're doing is against the rules of the mall. To put it more seriously, it's illegal. Don't you know that?" Wu Dafu was completely furious this time. He roared at Jin Haiyang, "Is your classmate crazy? Why are you bringing everyone to me?" Jin Haiyang said, "Uncle, he's not my classmate. You can do whatever you want with him. You don't have to care about me." Hearing that he was not Jin Haiyang's classmate, Wu Dafu immediately waved to several security guards. He pointed at Jin Haodong and shouted, "This guy is here to make trouble. Throw him out." Several security guards stepped forward and were about to take action. At this time, someone next to them shouted, "Stop." Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw a short and fat middle-aged man running over. It was Sun Rong. the general manager of the Heaven Earth Trading Building. Wu Dafu's face was originally full of anger, but when he saw Sun Rong, his expression immediately changed, and he greeted him with a flattering face. Manager Sun, what brings you here? Generally speaking, Sun Rong was in charge of the entire Heaven Earth Trading Building. He was busy with business, and rarely came to his clothing department. However, Sun Rong didn't even look at him. He scolded the security guards. Are you all King crazy? How dare you attack the boss? He was originally scolding the security guards, but his words were like divine thunder in Wu Dafu's ears, which almost scared him out of his wits. Recently, he heard that the boss of the Heaven Earth Trading Building had been changed, but he didn't expect that it was this young man in front of him. Thinking of what he had just done, his legs became weak, and he almost wet his pants. Jin Haiyang was also completely stunned. He had just laughed at Qin Haodong, but he didn't expect that he was really the boss here. He was the boss of the Taotai Hotel and the Dongxing Entertainment Company. He didn't expect that he was also the boss of this place. Su Jiejia and the others were extremely shocked. They didn't know who Su Hui's boyfriend was. Was he a member of a big family? How could he be so rich? The Taotai Hotel, the Dongxing Entertainment Company, and the Heaven Earth Trading Building were three bosses. Their total assets were probably no less than 10 billion yuan, right? Sun Rong didn't care about anything else. After scolding the security guards, he ran to Qin Haodong with a flattering face and said, Boss, what can I do for you? Qin Haodong said lightly, Manager Sun, let me ask you, is there a 20% discount rule in our shopping mall? Sun Rong said, No, there is a clear rule in our shopping mall that there is no discount for all goods. Then does the department manager have the right to give a 20% discount? Sun Rong said, Boss, even I, the general manager, don't have the right to give a discount, not to mention the department manager. Qin Haodong looked at Wu Dafu and said, But I just saw Manager Wu giving a discount to someone confidently and asking the security guards to throw me out. What's going on? Hearing this, cold sweat broke out on Sun Rong's forehead. Such a thing had happened in the shopping mall, and the boss had seen it directly. As the general manager, he couldn't escape the blame. If he didn't handle it well, he was afraid that he would lose his position. He turned around and shouted at Wu Dafu. Wu Dafu, how dare you openly violate the rules of the building? Go to the finance department to settle your salary immediately, and then get out of here. Wu Dafu was nearly 50 years old, and had just become a department manager. If he was fired, it would be difficult for him to find another job at his age. He knew what the problem was. He hurriedly came to Qin Haodong and knelt on the ground. Boss, please, I was wrong this time. Please give me another chance. I won't dare to do it again in the future. As the saying goes, a pitiful person must be hateful. Qin Haodong had no pity for such a person and waved his hand at Sun Rong. Sun Rong immediately shouted to the security guard next to him. Hurry up and take him away. Don't affect the boss's mood. Seeing that his uncle had been influenced by him and had lost his job, Jin Haiyang said angrily to Qin Haodong. Qin, my uncle has knelt down to you. Aren't you going too far? As my employee, Wu Dafu used my money to do favors in private. Is it too much for me to fire him? Qin Haodong smiled coldly. Since you say I'm going too far, then I'll go too far. He said to Sun Rong. Immediately informed the Economic Investigation Department of the Public Security Bureau to check the accounts of the clothing department. I heard that the supplier in front of him was Manager Wu's nephew. They were an uncle and a nephew. One was the supplier, and the other was the buyer. Even a fool would not believe that there was nothing fishy going on between them. Once financial problems are found, immediately transfer them to the public security organ and deal with them impartially. There will be no tolerance. Okay, boss, I'll call the police now. In order to get rid of his management responsibility, Sun Rong was extremely active. He immediately took out his mobile phone and called the police. This time, Jin Haiyang was completely dumbfounded and wanted to slap himself. If it was just the money they had earned over the years, at least the rest of their lives would not be a problem. If the public security department intervened in the investigation, He was afraid that his uncle and nephew would spend the rest of their lives in prison. Mr. Chin, I was wrong. I just said it casually. My uncle should be fired for this kind of behavior. You did nothing wrong. Let's let it go. In the face of Jin Haiyang's plea, Qin Haodong ignored it at all. He directly turned his head to the other side and did not stop Sun Rong from calling the police. Jin Haiyang was really panicked this time. It was the first time that he felt so close to prison. He quickly turned his head to look at Su Hui and said, Hui Hui, we've been classmates for many years. Please help me. Don't call the police, okay? After all, Su Hui was a girl. She couldn't bear to face Jin Haiyang's plea. She pulled Qin Haodong's sleeve and said, Haodong, can we deal with it in another way? Don't call the police, okay? Jin Haiyang quickly said, Yes, Mr. Qin, let's talk about it. As long as you don't call the police, everything will be easy. For Su Hui's sake, I'll let you go this time. Qin Haodong said to Sun Rong, Don't call the police for the time being. Let the company's internal finance department audit the accounts of the clothing department. The deficit must be made up by Jin Haiyang and Wu Dafu. Call the police immediately if there is a penny missing. Jin Haiyang's face was pale. Over the years, he and Wu Dafu had obtained a large amount of money from the Heaven Earth Trading Building by making false accounts. This was not a small amount of money. It would definitely cost him his life to pay it back. However, compared with the rest of his life in prison, paying it back was the best choice. Mr. Qin, don't worry. I'll raise the money now, and I'll definitely pay it back in full. After that, he didn't have the face to stay here anymore. He ran out of the shopping mall in disgrace. After Jin Haiyang left, the other students came to their senses from the shock. They didn't expect that so many things would happen when they bought clothes. Although everyone knew that he had brought this upon himself, and it was the best result that Qin Haodong didn't pursue his criminal responsibility, everyone felt a little regretful. After all, they still had the shopping receipt of the shopping building in their hands. It seemed that there was no hope for a 20% discount. Seeing the students' emotions, Su Hui said to Qin Haodong in a low voice, Haodong, look, the students have all chosen their things. Can you make the decision to give them a discount? Qin Haodong shook his head and said, Of course not. I don't have the habit of giving discounts. Hearing this, the students around them sighed. It seemed that they could only return the things. But at this time, Qin Haodong said, I never give discounts to my friends. They're all free of charge. We're all Su Hui's classmates. No matter what you just chose, it's all free of charge. It's all on my account. Oh, hooray. Su Hui's classmates immediately cheered. The things they had bought were not small, and some of them had even reached 5 figures. They didn't expect that all of them would be free of charge. Zhang Tong and Zhao Pu lowered their heads at the same time. They had already realized how big the gap between them and Qin Haodong was. There was no comparison at all. After paying the bill with these people, Su Hui said goodbye to her classmates. Qin Haodong took Ouyang Shanshan and Su Hui to the Tang sect. Qin Haodong drove, and the 2 girls sat in the back. Su Hui leaned over and whispered in Qin Haodong's ear, How many properties do you have? Did I find a super rich man? Chapter 757. Along the way, Qin Haodong explained his situation to the 2 women in detail while driving. After returning to the Tang sect, the whole family became very lively because of the 2 new members. In particular, the arrival of Ouyang Shanshan made those who liked to listen to her songs very excited. The little fellow had been around her and was very happy. All of this changed when Lin Momo came back. She walked into the house with a sullen face and shouted to the laughing little fellow, Tang Tang, come here. The little fellow, who had been happy, seemed to realize that things were not good. She ran behind Chu Xianyue in a few steps, put her arms around her neck and said, Grandma, help me. Don't be afraid, Grandma is here. Chu Xianyue spoiled the little fellow very much. Seeing Lin Momo's bad face, she immediately said, What's wrong? Tang Tang is still a child. Why are you so fierce to her? Lin Momo said, Auntie, I just came back from kindergarten. You don't know how much trouble she made at school. Now she has been expelled and is not allowed to go to school tomorrow. Qin Haodong said curiously. My daughter is very obedient. What did she do to be expelled from school? How dare your daughter say that she is obedient? Lin Momo said angrily. She asked the class teacher to give all the little red flags to her. Qin Haodong said in surprise. It's my daughter's good performance that she can get so many little red flags. Good performance my ass. Lin Momo unexpectedly burst out a rare swear word, which showed that she was extremely angry. She let a child eat 2 erasers. Is that good performance? She asked a child to call the teacher sister. Is that good performance? She asked a child to run naked and refuse to wear clothes. Is that good performance? Hearing her mother accusing her of crimes, the little fellow couldn't help but defend. They bullied me because I was a child from another place, so I taught them a lesson. Lin Momo said angrily. That's not good either. Have you forgotten that mom told you to get along well with children? Wait. I'm a little dizzy. Chu Xianyue said in surprise. What the hell are you talking about? It seems that the teachers and students in the school listen to my granddaughter and do whatever she wants them to do. How could there be such a thing? Lin Momo said. Isn't it obvious? Haodong must have taught her mind manipulating. Now the school says she's a little monster, so she's not allowed to go to school. After that, she glared at Qin Haodong and said, How can you spoil your child so much? Now I'm in trouble. I didn't. Qin Haodong looked aggrieved and innocent. Suddenly, he understood what was going on and shouted, Xiaoxian, come here. At this time, Hu Xiaoxian was quietly moving to the door of the room. She was about to escape, but Qin Haodong called her back. I just wanted to go to the washroom. If there's anything, let's talk when I come back. After saying that, she was about to run, but was stopped by Qi Weiner, who said with a smile, Sister Xiaoxian, didn't we just go to the toilet together? Why are you going now? Is it because you need to pee? Qin Haodong stepped forward, grabbed Hu Xiaoxian's arm and pulled her over. Tell me, what the hell is going on? Did you pass the fox hypnosis to Tang Tang? Seeing that she couldn't avoid it, Hu Xiaoxian stretched out 2 fingers and said embarrassedly, Just a little. Only then did everyone understand what was going on. It turned out that Hu Xiaoxian had passed the fox hypnosis to Tang Tang, which caused such a big trouble at school. Qin Haodong said, You're really not afraid of trouble. Tang Tang is so young. Why did you teach her this skill? Hu Xiaoxian explained, I think Tang Tang's aptitude is very good, and she likes to learn, so I taught her a little. Qin Haodong stared at her and said, Just a little? A little can make children eat erasers and call the teacher sister? It's the first level of the fox hypnosis. I promise I didn't teach her the second level. Qin Haodong said with a wry smile. The first level has caused such a big trouble. If you teach her the second level, won't it turn the world upside down? Hearing the conversation between the two, the little fellow did not feel afraid. On the contrary, her eyes lit up and her big eyes blinked, as if she was thinking of something bad. Chu Xianyue said, Well, that's it. Don't let Tang Tang use the fox hypnosis indiscriminately in the future. Seeing that the old lady was protecting her granddaughter, Lin Momo couldn't say anything more. The next day, Tang Tang stayed at home to play because she couldn't find a kindergarten for the time being. After breakfast, Qin Haodong went to the clinic to help as usual, and went to school. The others were also busy with their own things. The little fellow watched TV with Chu Xianyue for a while, and then said, Grandma, I'm going out to play for a while. Go ahead. Just don't go out. It was very safe in the Tang sect. Chu Xianyue didn't think much, and let the little fellow go out directly. Tang Tang left the living room, and trotted to Hu Xiaoxian's room. Auntie Xiaoxian, what are you doing? Hu Xiaoxian was lying on the bed playing with her mobile phone. When she saw the little fellow coming, she put down the mobile phone in her hand, sat up and said, You stinky Tang Tang, you said that I would teach you fox hypnosis, and you would call me mom in the future. Now you call me auntie. Are you not keeping your promise? The little fellow smiled slyly and said, It's Auntie Xiaoxian who didn't keep her promise. You only taught me the first stage, and didn't teach me the second stage, so our agreement doesn't count. Why don't you teach me the second stage, and I'll call you mom in the future? Hu Xiaoxian reached out and pinched her white and tender face. You little girl, you still want to learn. Didn't you see that I was scolded by your father yesterday? The little fellow said. That's because my papa is unreasonable. Why can they bully me, but I can't teach them a lesson? At this time, the little fellow's performance was completely different from a few months ago. In contrast, she was much more mature. This was the effect of the Suzaka sacred body. Whether it was psychological development or physical development, Tang Tang was several times faster than children of the same age. Now she had the IQ of a 6 or 7-year-old child. Anyway, you've made a big mistake this time. Auntie Xiaoxian, I know I'm wrong, the little fellow said, and threw herself into Hu Xiaoxian's arms. She reached out and hugged her neck. She kissed her on the cheek and said, Tell me what's the difference between the second stage and the first stage of mental cultivation method? Hu Xiaoxian held the little fellow in her arms and said, The first stage of fox hypnosis requires the use of eyes, expressions, body movements and language to control the thoughts of others. But when it comes to the second stage, it's not necessary. You can directly control others through spiritual force. The little fellow blinked her big eyes and said, Does that mean that as long as I practice the second stage of mental cultivation method, the teachers won't find out that I did it? Hu Xiaoxian said, You still want to learn. I won't teach you, you troublemaker. Auntie Xiaoxian, leave it to me. I promise I'll call you mom when I see you in the future. Hu Xiaoxian shook her head and said, That won't do. If I teach you, your father will eat me. Auntie Xiaoxian, I promise you that I won't use it indiscriminately after I learn it, unless someone bullies me. That won't do. Auntie Xiaoxian, if you don't teach me the second stage of mental cultivation method, I promise that when you and Dad have a little brother in the future, I will bully him. You little elf, how dare you threaten Auntie Xiaoxian? The two of them talked for a long time. Finally, Hu Xiaoxian had no choice but to say, I can teach you the second stage of mental cultivation method, but you must ensure that I can't use it indiscriminately on others. And you can't let your father know. The little fellow raised her white and tender little hand and said, If Dad knows, I'll have no candy to eat in the future. Well, I'll teach you the second stage of mental cultivation method now, but you have to practice it slowly. You definitely can't master it in a short time. The reason why Hu Xiaoxian agreed to teach her the second stage of fox hypnosis was that she liked the little fellow and had no choice. On the other hand, the second stage of mental cultivation method was extremely demanding on people's spiritual force. Even she could only practice the second stage after reaching the supreme power realm. In her opinion, even if she taught Tang Tang the mental cultivation method, the little fellow would not be able to master it in a short time. When her mind was more mature, even if she mastered it, she would not use it indiscriminately. But what she didn't know was that the Eyes of Phoenix that Tang Tang practiced was originally a magic skill of a Yuan sect, which had a significant effect on improving people's spiritual force. The reason was very simple. If there was no strong spiritual force, how could she control the flame? Therefore, although the little fellow's cultivation was not very high, her spiritual force was extremely strong. At least, she did not belong to the ordinary supreme power realm. Tang Tang was indeed very talented in learning fox hypnosis, and soon she completely mastered the second stage of mental cultivation method. Xiaoxian's mother, I'm going to play with Damao and Ermao. The little fellow ran out of the room happily, but she did not go to find Damao and Ermao. Instead, she was eager to find someone to test her second stage of fox hypnosis. She ran to the door and said to Zhang Tiniu, Uncle Tiniu, can you let me go out to play for a while? While speaking, the little fellow directly used fox hypnosis, and an invisible spiritual force went straight to Zhang Tiniu's brain palace. Zhang Tiniu felt dizzy for a while, but after all, he was a supreme power realm master. At present, he was not under Tang Tang's control, so he quickly recovered. No, the boss specially said that you can play in the yard, but you can't go out. Well, I'm going back. The little fellow turned around and ran back muttering, Maybe Uncle Tiniu is too powerful. I need someone else to try. At this time she happened to see Uncle Wang. The little fellow ran over with a leaf and said, Grandpa Wang, Can you help me see what color this leaf is? Uncle Wang said. Tang Tang, this leaf is red. Okay, I see. The little fellow ran away happily after hearing that. I made it, I made it. She was holding a green leaf in her hand. The reason why Uncle Wang said that it was red just now was that he was controlled by her fox hypnosis. So he thought that the leaf in front of him was red. If Hu Xiaoxian knew that Tang Tang had mastered the second stage so quickly, she would be so surprised that her jaw would drop. It was too fast. This time, the little fellow didn't find someone else to experiment with. She went directly to play with Damao and Ermao. Just a few days ago, Qin Haodong asked someone to take Damao and Ermao to the Tang sect. At this time, the two snow mastiffs had grown taller and thicker than lions, looking extremely powerful. The little fellow jumped lightly and rode on Damao's neck. Damao, go! Damao leaped forward fiercely, dragging little master along as he sprinted through the Tang sect's courtyard. Everyone who saw this only smiled lightly, no one cared. Chapter 758. The speed of the black shadow was so fast that even in broad daylight, he was like a ghost and came to Tang Tang's back in a flash. Ermao, who was next to her, was very alert. He immediately noticed the arrival of the black-clothed man. He let out a roar and rushed up. However, the black-clothed man was too fast. He hit the little fellow's Haitian acupoint with his left hand and took her into his arms with his right hand. With a slight flash, he dodged Ermao's attack, and then rushed out of the wall like a flowing light. Damao and Ermao chased after him, but compared with the black-clothed man, they were too slow. In the blink of an eye, the black-clothed man disappeared without a trace. After being changed by the body-refining pill, Damao and Ermao were not only strong, but also much more intelligent than ordinary animals. They were equivalent to human children of 5 or 6 years old. Seeing that their little master had been taken away, they rushed into the villa building of the Tang sect like crazy. Everyone in the Tang sect was shocked. Although these two big guys looked fierce, they were actually very docile. No one knew what happened to them today. They suddenly went crazy. Damao and Ermao rushed into the building and ran all the way to the living room. Damao opened his mouth and bit Chu Xuanyue's dress, pulling it frantically to the door. Chu Xuanyue was shocked and slapped Damao's head away. But at this time, Ermao rushed up again, still biting her dress and dragging it out. The Nailan sisters were accompanying them. After seeing the state of Damao and Ermao, Nailan Wushuang said in surprise, "These two dogs are usually very psychic. What's wrong with them today?" Nailan Wuxia said, "I think they have something to do and want us to go out." Hearing her words, Damao and Ermao nodded, which was rare, to show that she was right. Then they roared wildly, looking extremely anxious. Chu Xianyue also realized that something was wrong and said, "Something must have happened. Let's go and have a look." The three of them followed Damao and Ermao out of the building. Damao took them to the place where Tang Tang had just been taken away, and then began to roar outside. Nailan Wushuang said, "What do they mean?" Nailan Wuxia said, "It seems that they want to tell us something but they can't say it." At this time, Ermao suddenly rushed forward, opened his mouth and ran back with a pink hair clip in his mouth, and threw it in front of the three people with a snap. Chu Xianyue picked up the hair clip, looked at it and said, "This is Tang Tang's hair clip." Nailan Wushuang's expression suddenly changed. "Oh no, maybe something happened to Tang Tang?" After listening to her, the two snow mastiffs began to nod frantically again, and then they anxiously circled in the same place. Tang Tang is in trouble? But this is the Tang sect. How is that possible? Hearing this news, Chu Xianyue was also anxious. She immediately gathered people and began to look for Tang Tang in the Tang sect. Hearing the news that Tang Tang was missing, Hu Xiaoxian, Feng Wu, Wei Yanran, and others rushed out of the building. These people were all masters. A few minutes later, they searched every corner of the Tang sect, but Tang Tang was nowhere to be found. Hu Xiaoxian said anxiously, "Tang Tang was in my room just now. Why is she gone?" "Tang Tang has been taken away." Chu Xianyue was furious because she could not find the little fellow. Someone had run into the Tang sect and taken away her granddaughter. This had touched the reverse scale of the entire Tang sect. Since she reunited with Qin Haodong, she had been retreating and was willing to play the role of a loving mother. But at this time, she was completely angry. She regained the momentum of a domineering female president and began to give orders to the people of the Tang sect. Feng Wu, you guard the east gate of the capital now. If you find the thief who took Tang Tang, kill him on the spot, but you must ensure Tang Tang's safety. Wu Shuang, you guard the west gate. Wu Xia, you guard the north gate. Xiaoxian, you guard the south gate. Soon, she sent 4 daughters-in-law, who had reached the Saint Realm, to guard the 4 exits of the capital to ensure that Tang Tang would not be taken away from the capital. Feng Wu and the others answered and rose into the air. After reaching the Saint Realm, they had been able to skillfully control the qi of heaven and earth. They summoned a mist to wrap their bodies, and then rushed to the 4 directions of the capital. Chu Xianyue then said to Ma Wanzhua, "Send an emergency signal now and summon all the people of the Tang sect back." It was daytime, and many people of the Tang sect were working outside. They had to be summoned back immediately. Ma Wanzhua agreed, and released the signal flare that the Tang sect had entered a state of emergency. This kind of signal flare was specially developed by Qin Haodong, and could not be used unless there was an emergency. The signal flare flew high into the sky, and then exploded with a bang. A huge Tang character appeared in the air. With 3 crisp sounds, all 3 signal flare exploded in the sky, indicating that the Tang sect had entered a very urgent state. Lin Momo was preparing for the entry of the spirit stone jewelry into the capital. When she saw the emergency signal, she knew that something big had happened at home. She immediately put down all her work and rushed back to the Tang sect. Yen Feifei had originally returned to the Yen family to visit Yen Fengwu. When she saw the signal, she instantly disappeared and rushed back to the Tang sect. The others did the same. When they saw the emergency signal, no matter what they were doing, they rushed back to the Tang sect without hesitation. Tang Tang has been taken away. We must take action immediately. Chu Xianyue glanced at the people who had rushed back and said to Yen Feifei, "Feifei, you are responsible for controlling the airport. Don't let anyone take Tang Tang away." Yen Feifei agreed, and immediately rushed to the airport with her people. Then the others were also sent out one by one. Chu Xianyue was completely determined. Even if she had to turn the entire capital upside down, she would find her granddaughter. Nailin Wushuang, Nailin Wuxia, Feng Wu, and Hu Xiaoxian were stationed in 4 directions of the capital. They stepped in the air. In order to prevent ordinary people from panicking, they all pulled out a mist to cover their bodies. However, the powerful momentum could not be concealed. Ordinary people could not feel it, but the martial artists could clearly feel it, and knew that there was a super strong person guarding here. Although they did not cultivate a terrifying spirit like Qin Haodong, their insight was far better than ordinary people. As long as someone took Tang Tang to break through in this direction, they would immediately stop them. In the capital, Yen Feifei and Qi Wan, the 2 martial saints, led Lin Momo, Wei Yanran, Han Jiyu, Zhao Qinggu, and the others to carry out a strict search. For a moment, the people of the Tang sect were like a big net that covered the sky and the earth, covering the entire capital. In this way, all the upper-class families in the capital were shocked. For saints were guarding the 4 directions of the capital. In addition to Yen Feifei and Qi Wan, who were searching in the center, it meant that they already had 6 martial saints. How could they not panic? Including the Qin family, who had a saint. Qin Zhanlong finally understood that it was not unjust for him to be beaten up by a group of people last time. It turned out that they were also saints, and they did not resort to tricks. Only the Tang sect could do this. At the same time, they were also very curious about who was not afraid of death to provoke the Tang sect. What did they do to make them so angry? Why did they mobilize so many people? At a civil airport 100 miles away from the capital, the man in black, who was holding Tang Tang in his arms, looked back and could not help but feel a lingering fear. Fortunately, he ran fast, otherwise he would really be in trouble. He had long heard that the Tang sect was powerful, so after catching Tang Tang, he rushed out of the capital without stopping. It was too late for Chu Xianyue to make arrangements. He turned around and said to another middle-aged man in a suit next to him, "Miura-san, are you ready? We must leave immediately." "Master Chiba, everything is ready. As long as you give the order, we can fly back to the capital immediately. Hurry up. Huaxia is too dangerous. We can't stay here any longer." The strength shown by the Tang sect was too strong. It was 10 times stronger than what he had known before. Even though the man in black had reached the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm, he did not dare to fight them head-on. He immediately took Tang Tang and the middle-aged man to a civil plane. After a while, they rose into the air and flew east. Qin Haodong had a class this morning. As soon as the class was over, he heard a student by the window shouting, "Look, what beautiful fireworks!" He glanced out of the window, and his expression suddenly changed when he saw the huge Tang character. If there was no emergency, they would never use this kind of signal. "Teacher, look, the fireworks are really beautiful and they fly so high." A female student turned around and called Qin Haodong, only to find that the podium was empty and the teacher was nowhere to be seen. Qin Haodong found a place where there was no one, stepped on the Xian Yuan sword and flew away. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the Tang sect. After entering the door, he saw Chu Xianyue and asked hurriedly, "Mom, what happened?" "Son, you're back." After seeing Qin Haodong, Chu Xianyue, who was tense, immediately relaxed. She sobbed and said, "Was Tang Tang stolen?" "What? Tang Tang was stolen? When did it happen?" Chu Xianyue told him about the process of Tang Tang's disappearance. Qin Haodong's face immediately became extremely serious. He was very clear about the defensive strength of the Tang sect. The person who could steal Tang Tang here was definitely a master, at least at the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm. However, he did not panic like Chu Xianyue. On the contrary, he comforted her. "Mom, don't worry. They must have kidnapped Tang Tang to threaten our Tang sect. Before they achieve their goal, Tang Tang is absolutely safe." "Son, what should we do?" "We have to save Tang Tang as soon as possible. She's still so young." "Mom, don't worry. I'll think of a way." After saying that, Qin Haodong directly cut the index finger of his left hand. A dark red bead of blood slipped out and floated in the air. Blood drawing skill. This was the most effective way for him to find Tang Tang. But he soon found that the blood drawing skill had failed this time. He could not find any information about Tang Tang. After his cultivation was promoted to the Saint Realm, the benefits of his blood drawing skill could cover a radius of 100 miles. Now there was no information, which meant that Tang Tang was already 100 miles away. It seemed that the other party had been prepared. Once they succeeded, they would immediately escape. Chu Xianyue said anxiously, "How is it, son?" Qin Haodong stopped the blood drawing skill and said, "Call everyone back. Tang Tang is no longer in the capital." Chu Xianyue believed her son's words, and immediately arranged for Uncle Wang to do it. Then she said, "What should we do?" "Don't worry. As I said, they kidnapped Tang Tang to threaten our Tang sect. If they wanted to kill Tang Tang, they would have done it at the time. There was no need to make it so troublesome. Moreover, Tang Tang is so young. There is no need for them to kill her. What we have to do now is not panic and wait for the news from them. They will definitely contact us after confirming that she is safe." At this time, everyone outside ran back one after another. When Lin Momo saw Qin Haodong, she said anxiously, "Haodong, have you found Tang Tang?" Qin Haodong comforted her, "Don't panic. I think there will be news in a while." In Japan, by the seaside, an old man with white hair and beard and wooden clogs stood on a huge reef with his hands behind his back. He looked into the distance and let the sea breeze blow at his kimono, making it flutter. He was the sage of sword Kyo Chiba, who was known as the #1 master in Neon. Chapter 759. Right at this moment, a black shadow rushed over from afar. It was the black-clothed man who had stolen the little fellow, the eldest disciple of the sword saint, Shiro Chiba. He came behind Kyo Chiba and said respectfully, "Master, I'm back." Kyochiba still looked into the distance with a deep gaze and said softly, "How's it going?" "It's very smooth. I've brought Chin Haodong's daughter back to Neon. Now I'm handing her over to Ayuwa Miura and hiding her in the underground base in Kawakita Prefecture. It should be safe." Kyochiba said, "Well done, Master. There's something I don't quite understand. I wonder if I should ask." Kyochiba said, "Go ahead. Chin Haodong killed Chiba Mieko, so he should be sentenced to death. But as long as Master personally goes to kill him, everything will be over. Is there any need to go through so much trouble?" Kyochiba said, "It's not as simple as you say. There are many masters in Huaxia, and Chin Haodong is on good terms with Xianyuan Ligay, the master of the Xianyuan Pavilion. The headquarters of the Xianyuan Pavilion is in the capital. Even if I am a master of the Saint Realm, it is not so easy to kill people in the capital. Maybe I will lose myself there. Only in our own land can we have 100% certainty." At this point he turned around and said, "There's another reason why I'm doing this. I failed to break through to the middle stage of the Saint Realm in closed-door cultivation some time ago. And I don't have much time left. The Xianyuan Pavilion of Huaxia has always been a big problem for our country. Xianyuan Ligay is a strong person at the Saint Realm. When I'm alive, the Xianyuan Pavilion can't do anything to us. Once I leave, I'm afraid that Kishi Sato and Shinobu Inamoto alone won't be able to fight against Xianyuan Ligay. So this time, I will drag Xianyuan Ligay to hell with me at the risk of my life, to benefit the future generations of our country." "I understand, Master." Shiro Chiba bowed respectfully and then said, "Even if we want to lure Chin Haodong and Xianyuan Ligay, we have already taken Yagyu Yukaim of the Yagyu family hostage. She is Chin Haodong's woman. Why did he go all the way to catch that little girl?" Kyochiba said, "Remember, no matter what you do, you have to be safe. Although Yagyu Yukaim is Chin Haodong's woman, she is from Neon after all. It's normal for Chin Haodong to ignore her. Now that we have captured his daughter, we have double insurance. We don't need to be afraid that he won't come to our country." "Master is indeed farsighted," Shiro Chiba said. "What should we do now?" Kyochiba looked at the setting sun. "It's almost time. Call Chin Haodong." "Understood, Master." Shiro Chiba agreed, and took out a mobile phone from his pocket. In the capital, after the Tang sect received Chin Haodong's order, the members of the Tang sect who were outside rushed back one after another. Xianyuan Ligay, the pavilion master of the Xianyuan Pavilion, followed them with 4 saint-level protector elders. The Tang sect had just made such a big noise that it was impossible not to alarm the Xianyuan Pavilion. Knowing that something big had happened to the Tang sect, Xianyuan Ligay immediately rushed over with the elders of the Tsihong Sword House. After seeing Chin Haodong, she said respectfully, "Sacred Lord, is something wrong? Do you need my help?" Chin Haodong briefly told her about Tang Tang's disappearance, and then said, "Use your Xianyuan Pavilion's intelligence system to find out who the other party is, and what their purpose is." "I'll ask someone to check it out right now," Xianyuan Ligay agreed. But before she could take out her mobile phone, Chin Haodong's phone rang. There was a string of strange numbers on it, and it was not a Huaxia phone number. He immediately realized that it was the person who had kidnapped Tang Tang, and pressed the answer button. A stiff Huaxia language came from the other side of the phone. "Chin Haodong, your daughter is in our hands, and the girl from the Yagyu family is also in our hands." Chin Haodong was slightly shocked. He did not expect that Yagyu Yukaim would also be captured by them. "Tell me, what's your purpose? Get to Chiba Island in Japan within 12 hours. Or wait to collect the bodies of your daughter and Yagyu Yukaim." After that, the other party hung up the phone without waiting for him to answer. Seeing that Chin Haodong had hung up, Chu Xianyue immediately asked nervously, "Son, who kidnapped Tang Tang? How much do they want?" Chin Haodong said in a cold voice, "It's the Neon people. They don't want money. They want me to get there within 12 hours. Hearing that it was the Neon people who had kidnapped Tang Tang, Hu Xiaoxian shouted angrily, "These damn Neon people, let's go and kill them now." After entering the Saint Realm, she was full of confidence when she spoke. Xianyuan Ligay was relatively calmer. She said, "Since the Neon people asked us to go there, They must have made sufficient preparations. We must be careful. A strong killing intent flashed in Qin Haodong's eyes. Tang Tang was his reverse scale. No matter who it was, as long as they touched his daughter, they would be killed without mercy. Feng Wu said, "Let's go together. I don't believe that so many saints can't destroy that island country." Xianyuan Ligay said, "Sacred Master, Feng Wu is right. Let's go together. In the face of absolute strength, all schemes and tricks are useless." Qin Haodong said, "All those who have reached the Saint Realm will go with me. The others will stay in the Tang sect." Lin Momo hurriedly shouted, "Take me with you." Tang Tang was her daughter, so she was naturally worried about the little fellow's safety. "Well, then you'll come with us." After that, Qin Haodong left the Tang sect with Lin Momo and the other saints and rushed to the airport. The Xianyuan Pavilion had already applied for the route. They got on Qin Haodong's private plane and flew in the direction of Neon. At this time, there were a total of 12 saints on the plane, including Xianyuan Ligay, who was at the middle stage of the Saint Realm. This kind of strength was enough to make any force tremble. Qiu Qiba represented the peak of the Neon force. He had confronted Huaxia for many years, so he was very clear about the strength of the Xianyuan Pavilion. This time, his time was coming, so he set up this trap and wanted to launch a desperate attack. He was a very cautious person. Just as he had said to Shiro Chiba, he pursued perfection in everything. This time, the plan was also extremely precise. But he had never imagined that Xianyuan Ligay had become a strong master at the middle stage of the Saint Realm, leaving him far behind. Most importantly, he had underestimated the strength of the Tang sect. If he knew that this plan had provoked a total of 12 saint-level experts, who knew what he would think? In a small valley on the edge of Kawakita County Neon, there was a very secret underground military base with extremely tight defense. In a secret room, a senior officer in military uniform was staring at the little girl in front of him. His name was Koji Honda. He had been ordered by Aiwa Miura, the highest officer of the underground base, to guard Tang Tang. Aiwa Miura had repeatedly told him that this little girl had a special identity, and he had to keep an eye on her without any mistakes. He agreed very well, but he didn't take it seriously. This was a heavily guarded underground base. How could a little girl of 3 or 4 years old in front of him run away? He even thought that as an officer, he was making a big fuss over a trivial matter. It was a little too much to tie up such a lovely little girl with a rope. Tang Tang originally had the Suzaka sacred body, and her physique was far stronger than that of ordinary people. At this time, the acupoints that Shiro Chiba had pressed had been automatically opened by the genuine qi running in her body. She slowly opened her eyes and looked around. After making sure that she had left the Tang sect, she actually laughed. She had always wanted to run out, but now she had finally been taken out. Seeing Tang Tang wake up, Koji Honda was a little nervous. He was not afraid of anything else, but he was afraid that the little girl would cry. But he didn't expect that the little girl in front of him not only did not cry, but also looked very happy. Tang Tang struggled to stand up, but found that she was tied with a rope. She said to Koji Honda in front of her, "Uncle, can you help me untie the rope?" One of the important reasons why Koji Honda was chosen to guard Tang Tang here was that he knew Huaxia language. "I can't do that. I received an order to tie you up." The little fellow felt that it was too uncomfortable to be tied up with the rope. Koji Honda didn't help her untie it. Suddenly, she had an idea and directly used fox hypnosis. "Uncle, help me untie the rope." This time, Koji Honda's eyes flashed with confusion. He obediently came over to help her untie the rope. The little fellow moved her limbs and said, "Bad guy, you're sleepy. Go to sleep." "Oh." Koji Honda answered and lay on the ground. Soon there was a snoring sound. Hee, it's so fun." Instead of being afraid of being kidnapped, the little fellow was very happy. After leaving them, she could finally have fun. Moreover, Auntie Xiaoxian had said that there was no psychological burden to use fox hypnosis on bad people. She didn't have to worry that her mother would scold her. And she didn't have to worry about being expelled from school. She opened the door and ran out. She met another soldier. When the man saw Tang Tang, he was stunned at first. But before he could react, he felt an irresistible sleepiness and fell asleep on the ground. Fun. Fun. After reaching the second level of Fox hypnosis, she could directly control other people's minds with her spiritual force without using words. She ran forward and saw that there was a door next to her, so she pushed it open and walked in. There were all kinds of instruments and electronic screens in the room. Jiro Ono, the commander, was busy with 7 or 8 soldiers. Because the little fellow was small, she did not attract other people's attention when she entered the door. She turned around and felt that these things were not interesting. So she lost interest and said to Jiro Ono, "Shall we play games together?" Hearing someone talking, Jiro Ono was startled. When he saw Tang Tang, he was about to move, but he was controlled by a powerful spiritual force. "Don't move. Listen to me. I'll take you to play a fun game." Under the control of Fox hypnosis, these soldiers nodded together and were as obedient as they could be. "Now I'm a teacher, and you're my students. I'll teach you, okay?" The little fellow had been under the control of a teacher when she was in kindergarten, so she dreamed of becoming a teacher one day. Today, when she saw these soldiers, she wanted to be a teacher. Naturally, these people would not object to her proposal. Under the control of Fox hypnosis, they sat down in front of her obediently. The little fellow smiled, took a red cup next to her, and said to these people, "In this class, I'll teach you how to identify colors." I said, "Remember, this color is green." "We know this is green." After reaching the second level of Fox hypnosis, the little fellow used her spiritual force. It didn't matter whether she spoke or not. Therefore, although these people did not understand Huaxia language, they could clearly understand the main meaning of the little fellow's expression. Tang Tang grabbed a green pen and said to these people with a smile, "Remember, this is red." "We know this is red." The soldiers replied in unison. Chapter 760. The little fellow was very happy to be a teacher, but it was a pity that she was just in kindergarten and didn't know much in her mind. After giving some instructions, she had nothing to teach. What else should I teach? She patted her little head and thought for a while. Suddenly, she remembered the teacher's check mark and wrong mark. She picked up a pen and drew a big check mark on a piece of A4 paper next to her and said, "Let me tell you, this is called a wrong mark. There is no intersection. If you do the wrong question, you should put a wrong mark." As she taught, she imagined the scene of these people putting a check mark on the question that their children had done wrong. She couldn't help giggling. "We know this is a wrong mark." The little fellow drew another big cross and said, "This is called a check mark. If you do the question correctly, you should put a check mark." "We know this is called a check mark." Under the leadership of Jiro Ono, these people answered in an unusually loud voice. After teaching this, the little fellow really had nothing to teach, so she simply said, "Well, it's time for nap. You can all go to sleep." Seeing that these people were lying on the ground and sleeping, she walked out of the door with her little hands behind her back with satisfaction. Soon after she went out, she met another soldier. Under the control of Fox hypnosis, the man directly took the little fellow out of the military base, and then fell asleep under a big tree. Not far away, the little fellow saw a road. When a pickup truck passed by, she gently jumped into the back of the truck and sat in the truck to rush to the city. This pickup truck was to deliver goods to the supermarket. After arriving in the city, the little fellow jumped out of the truck and began to wander around looking for something she thought fun. After walking for a while, she felt a little hungry. She smelled the fragrance coming from a nearby restaurant and couldn't help drooling. Originally, if she used Fox hypnosis, she could go in and eat casually, but her mother had told her that she had to pay for things. This idea was deeply rooted in her little head, so she didn't go in to eat, but tried to get money. Not far away, she saw a bank on the side of the road, and people came out with money one after another. She also went in and came to a window. The cashier in the bank suddenly saw a lovely little girl in front of him and said, "Little girl, do you want to withdraw money? Are your parents here?" The little fellow couldn't understand foreign language at all, So she directly used Fox hypnosis to tell the other party that she wanted to withdraw money. The cashier was just an ordinary person. His mind was immediately controlled by his powerful mental power, and he asked, "How much do you want to withdraw?" The little fellow still didn't understand what the other party was saying, but she knew that there must be a number to withdraw money. She thought about it and said casually, "Let's withdraw 20 million. She didn't have much of a concept before. She often followed Lin Momo and talked about tens of millions of transactions. So she said such a number. Fortunately, this was Neon, and the largest denomination was 10,000 yuan. 20 million yuan was only 2,000 of them. If it was changed to Huaxia currency, 20 million yuan was a frightening amount. She couldn't take it away at all. After paying 20 million in cash, the cashier kindly put the money in a bag for her. The little fellow took the money and walked out of the bank, heading for the restaurant nearby. After entering, she didn't know how to order, so she casually pointed at the table next to her that looked very exquisite, then took out a handful of money and handed it to the waiter next to her. The waiter thought it was interesting to see a little girl eating. He gave her the extra money and then brought a sushi to her. The little fellow tasted it and thought it tasted good. Then she ate it in big mouthfuls. While she was eating happily, Qin Haodong, Lin Momo, and the others were anxious. Originally, these saints could fly, but the distance between Huaxia and Neon was not close. If they flew here, it would consume a lot of energy, and they couldn't face unknown dangers. Therefore, Qin Haodong chose to take everyone here by plane. When they arrived near Neon, they directly opened the cabin door and jumped out. The plane flew back to Huaxia. On the plane, Qin Haodong had already made arrangements. He, Xianyuan Legay, and Lin Momo formed a group and went straight to Chiba Island according to the other party's instructions on the phone. The others scattered and searched for the little fellow's whereabouts throughout Neon. Qin Haodong didn't show his strength. He and Lin Momo were carried by Xianyuan Legay and flew in the direction of Chiba Island. At this time, they had already entered the territory of Neon. The scene of them getting off the plane clearly appeared on a big screen. Oh my God, what did I see? In front of the big screen, a middle-aged man wearing the badge of a senior officer jumped up. His name was Yama Sato, a direct descendant of the Neon Sato family, and one of the participants in this plan. He was responsible for monitoring the movements of Huaxia. As a direct descendant of the Sato family, he knew the existence of the saints. He had also seen the scene of Kishi Sato, the head of the family, flying in the air. He knew that this was the unique ability of the saints. However, the sudden appearance of so many saints in front of him scared him out of his wits. He quickly picked up his mobile phone and dialed a phone number. Chiba Island was a small island 50 kilometers away from the Neon mainland. It was not large, about 1 square kilometer. It didn't have a name before. Later, it was occupied by the Chiba family and named Chiba Island. In the middle of the island, Yagyu Yukaim was tied to a coconut tree. At this time, her cultivation had been sealed, so she was no different from an ordinary person. Her white skin was covered with a pink halo under the scorching sun. On the reef not far from her, 3 old men in kimonos were sitting cross-legged. The one sitting in the middle was Kyochiba, the Sage of Sword. On his left was Kishi Sato, the head of the Sato family, and on his right was Takeda Inamoto, the head of the Inamoto family. Although Yagyu Yukaim's family was huge, it could only be considered a second-class family in the whole Neon. She had won this status after becoming a 9th-level Supreme Power Master. Previously, she could only be regarded as a third-class family. The 3 old men in front of her were the 3 saints of Neon. At the same time, they represented the top 3 families in Neon: the Chiba family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family. Kishi Sato said to Kyochiba, "Brother Sage of Sword, the dead can't come back to life. It's really sad that Mieko died young, but you'd better restrain your grief." Takeda Inamoto also said, "Yes, we'll kill Qin Haodong later and use his head as a sacrifice to Mieko's soul in heaven." Kyochiba sighed and said, "When Mieko was born, a master told her that she couldn't practice martial arts in this life, and that she couldn't use the chi of gold and iron. Unexpectedly, after the child was born, she didn't listen to the advice and insisted on practicing martial arts. As a result, she died in a foreign place. Kishisato said, "In fact, you care too much about this matter. If you had taught Mieko personally since she was a child, she would have become a supreme power master long ago. Maybe there would be no disaster today." Kyochiba shook his head and said, "You still don't know anything. That boy surnamed Chin is simply a monster. He has already reached the 9th level supreme power realm at the age of 20. Even if Mieko was personally taught by me, she wouldn't be able to reach his level." After hearing this, both of them widened their eyes. Takeda Inamoto said, "A 20-year-old 9th level supreme power master? How could that be? If he grows up for a few more years, won't he be invincible?" Kyochiba said, "It's because of this that I set up today's trap. I must get rid of this boy surnamed Chin. At the same time, the Xianyuan Pavilion is a great threat to our country. When the time comes, the three of us will kill Xianyuan Ligay together. It can be regarded as removing a great threat for our descendants." Kishisato said, "Brother Sword Sage, don't worry. We will definitely work together with you to kill Xianyuan Ligay." "Bah! You three old B***stards want to kill my master? You're daydreaming." Yagi Yukaim was not far from the three of them, so she heard their conversation clearly. She couldn't help shouting, "When my master comes, you three old B***stards will all go to heaven. B***starred, you shameless thing." Kyochiba shouted angrily, "You killed the former master of the Yagyu family. I won't argue with you. But you have no sense of shame. How dare you recognize a Huaxia man as your master? This is a disgrace to our country. From now on, your Yagyu family will be erased from Neon. Kyochiba, if you have the ability, fight with my master fair and square. It's shameful for you to do such a sneaky thing. B***starred, I'll kill you now." Kishisato was furious. He turned around and pulled out his knife, about to attack Yagyu Yukaim. However, Kyochiba raised his hand to stop him. "Master Sato, don't fall into this B***tch's trap. She just wants to provoke us to kill her, so that Chin Haodong will have nothing to worry about. B***tch, I'll kill you later." Kishisato angrily withdrew his knife. At this time, Kyochiba's cell phone rang. He usually didn't use this kind of thing. In order to set up a trap this time, he had specially prepared a cell phone to contact the military headquarters of Neon. The call was from Yamasato. When he heard that there were 11 saint-level masters from Huaxia, his face suddenly became extremely ugly. This time, Chin Haodong was not considered as his opponent at all. His only opponent was Xianyuan Ligay. In his opinion, it would not be a problem to kill Xianyuan Ligay with the combined strength of him, Kishisato, and Takeda Inamoto. But now there were 10 more saint-level masters, which completely lost the hope of winning. As the sword sage with the highest cultivation in Neon, he did not panic too much. He continued to ask, "How did these people act? Where are they now?" When he heard that the others had scattered to all parts of Neon, and only Xianyuan Ligay had rushed over with Chin Haodong and another woman, he breathed a sigh of relief. Although the situation had changed, it did not completely deviate from his plan. With the strength of the three saints, they could still kill Xianyuan Ligay. After thinking for a while, he took out his mobile phone and dialed Awa Miura's number. "Make arrangements now and prepare the firepower immediately. Once the situation on my side changes, immediately concentrate the firepower to destroy the entire Chiba Island. In case of any accidents." This was the final plan he had made with the military. Once they failed, the military would concentrate all the firepower in the underground military base and wipe out Chiba Island in one fell swoop. Aiwa Miura was one of Kyochiba's most loyal subordinates, and also the representative of the Chiba family in the military. After hearing Kyochiba's order, he was silent for a moment and said in a low voice, "Your Excellency, do we really have to do that?" Kyochiba said, "The strength of the enemy is far beyond our imagination. We have to be fully prepared. This time, we must kill Xianyuan Ligay and Chin Haodong completely and get rid of the big trouble for our empire." Chapter 761. Aiwa Miura said anxiously. But Sword Sage, according to the intensity of the firepower we've arranged, the entire Chiba Island will be destroyed once it's activated. Even a saint-level expert can't survive. Yu Kishisato and Takeda Inamoto won't be spared. Why don't we think of another way? Kyo Chiba said resolutely. Aiwa Miura, don't talk nonsense. Don't I know the firepower network I've set up? Our goal is to kill the saint from Huaxia. For the interests of the empire, it's not a big deal for our family to make some sacrifices. Even if the three of us die, the foundation of the aristocratic family is still there. The new forces like you are still there, and there will be countless saint experts in the future. Although the two of them were on the phone, Aiwa Miura still gave a military salute and said loudly, I see, Sword Sage. Thank you and the other two masters for your sacrifice for the empire. Kyochiba sighed and said in a low voice, Well, let's carry out the previous plan as soon as possible. Aiwa Miura said, Sword Sage, the launch button of the firepower network has been wirelessly connected to the switch in your hand. Now I'll send the attack map to the fire control center. 5 minutes later, as long as you press the switch, the entire Chiba Island will be covered by the dense firepower network. At that time, even a mosquito will not be able to survive. Jiro Ono was sleeping soundly on the ground. Suddenly, he was awakened by a harsh ringing of the phone. He quickly jumped up and picked up the phone. Ono, what are you doing? Why did you answer the phone after so long? Aiwa Miura said with great dissatisfaction on the other side of the phone. I'm sorry, General. I just went to the bathroom. Jiro Ono did not dare to tell the truth. Otherwise, if Aiwa Miura found out that he had fallen asleep on duty, he would definitely skin him alive. Thinking that his master was about to die for the country, Aiwa Miura was in a bad mood. He did not continue to pay attention to this matter, but said in a heavy voice, I've sent an attack map to the fire control center. We'll arrange the firepower immediately. For this plan, the Chiba family had made precise preparations and kept it a secret. A junior officer like Jiro Ono had no right to know their plan. Jiro Ono hurriedly said, Got it, sir. I'll do it right away. After that, he immediately received the fire attack map sent by Aiwa Miura and said, Sir, the map has been successfully received. Please continue to give orders. Aiwa Miura said, I've marked the target on the map. The one with the red cross is our target. You can adjust all the firepower there now. You don't have to worry about anything else. Understood, sir. Jiro Ono agreed and looked at the map. He saw that the three big red crosses were the headquarters of the Japanese Chiba family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family. It turned out that the three families had a very high status in Neon. Normally, it was an absolute military restricted area. Even basic military training had to be avoided. No plane was allowed to fly over the three families. In order to prevent accidents from happening, the military had marked these three big families on the map. The markings were 3 green check marks. Jiro Ono had just been educated by the little fellow, and the power of the fox hypnosis had not ended yet. So in his eyes, the green check mark was a red cross, which became the target of the firepower. The Chiba Island, which had been marked as a big red cross, had become a green check mark in his eyes at this time. He exclaimed, Sir, what's going on? The target of our attack is the Chiba family. Aiwa Miura did not know that Jiro Ono had been completely confused by the little fellow. He thought that he wanted to say that the target of the attack was the Chiba family's Chiba Island. He immediately said angrily, Ono, have you forgotten your duty as a soldier? You just need to obey orders. Don't talk so much nonsense. After reprimanding him, he felt endless sadness when he thought of the three saints who were about to die for the country. No Koen this time. The three families have made great sacrifices for the interests of the empire. Let's pay tribute to them together. Got it, sir. Jiro Ono gave a military salute, and his heart was filled with endless reverence. The three families were indeed the pillars of the country. For the interests of the empire, and to annihilate the enemy, they had even sacrificed their own homes. This kind of sacrifice was really admirable. After hanging up the phone, he immediately kicked all his other men awake. He thought to himself that they could no longer watch domestic action movies when they were on duty in the future. Otherwise, they would consume too much physical strength and fall asleep all of a sudden. After these people got up, they immediately gave orders and aimed all the firepower of the entire underground military center at the nests of the Chiba family, the Inamoto family, and the Sato family. A soldier checked the map and felt that there was something wrong with the target of the attack. He mentioned it to Jiro Ono, but before he could finish his words, he was kicked to the ground by Jiro Ono. As a soldier, have you forgotten your duty? You just need to carry out the order. He glanced at his men and said with reverence, "For the interests of the empire, our three great families have made great sacrifices. Let's salute them together." The soldiers seemed to understand something. They immediately stood up straight and gave a military salute to the three attack points on the big screen. Although the soldier who had been kicked down still had doubts in his heart, he did not dare to say anything. He quickly got up from the ground and gave a standard military salute like everyone else. In another room, Koji Honda was awakened by a rapid ringing of the phone. He hurriedly got up and picked up his mobile phone. When he saw that it was a call from his commanding officer, Eiwa Miura, he immediately pressed the answer button. "What are you doing? Why are you so slow to answer the phone?" Eiwa Miura was furious. "What's wrong with my men? They were too slow to answer the phone." Jiro Ono was slow, and Koji Honda was even slower. Did they look like soldiers at all? Seeing that his commanding officer was angry, Koji Honda hurriedly said, "I'm sorry, sir. I went to the bathroom just now." Time was running out, so Eiwa Miura was too lazy to pay attention to these lame excuses. He asked, "Where's the little girl?" "Don't worry, sir. She's tied up here." Speaking of this, Koji Honda suddenly felt like a rooster whose neck had been grabbed. Looking at the rope thrown on the ground beside him, he could not continue to speak. Eiwa Miura did not feel that something was wrong. He continued, "Send the little girl to Chiba Island right now. Be fast." Koji Honda walked around the room and made sure that there was no sign of the little fellow. He swallowed hard and said with difficulty, Sir, that little girl ran away." "Bastard, you bastard. What are you doing? You can't even keep an eye on a child. What else can you do?" Hearing that the little fellow had run away, Eiwa Miura immediately flew into a rage. "Tell me, how did she run away?" Koji Honda's mind went blank. He stammered, I don't know. "Bastard. If you delay the Empire's important affairs, I'll cut off your head." After cursing, Eiwa Miura hung up the phone and hurriedly called Kyo Chiba. "Master Sword Sage, I'm sorry. The little girl ran away just now." "Ran away? Isn't she a child of 3 or 4 years old? How could she run out of the underground base?" Eiwa Miura said, "My men are incompetent and failed to fulfill their responsibilities. Please punish me, Master Sword Sage." "Forget it. Anyway, Qin Haodong and Xinyuan Ligay have already come to Neon. It's not necessary for her to exist," Eiwa Miura said. "Do you want me to send someone to catch her?" Kyo Chiba said, "There's no need to make a big fuss. She's just a child. If we make too much noise, we may alarm Qin Haodong. It's not worth it. I guess it won't be long before they arrive." "Is the firepower ready?" Eiwa Miura said. "Don't worry, Master Sword Sage. Everything is ready. Now the firepower of the entire underground military base is under your control. As long as you press the control switch, thousands of cannons will be fired at once, and the entire Chiba Island will be blown up." Kyo Chiba said, "That's enough. I have a hunch that they will be here soon." The little fellow was very happy eating in the sushi restaurant, and soon finished a serving of sushi. She casually took out a few high-denomination coins from the bag next to her, asked the waiter next to her for another serving, and then began to eat happily. Outside the sushi restaurant, there were 7 or 8 gangsters dressed like rascals staring at the little fellow in the restaurant through the spacious and bright glass window. A gangster with a hippie hairstyle said to a leader with a nose ring next to him, "Boss, this little girl has a lot of money in her hands. It's obvious that she comes from a rich family. If we catch her, we can definitely make a lot of money." Another yellow-haired gangster followed and said, "Yes, boss, and it's very easy to do. I've been observing for a long time. This little girl ran out by herself. There are no adults around her at all. It's easy for us to catch her." The leader of the gangsters thought for a moment and said, "You're right. This is a big deal. It seems that we're lucky today. But this is the downtown area, and there are too many people. We might attract the police, so we have to use our wits instead of violence." The hippie said, "Boss is right. We have to use our wits. But I just saw that this little girl seems to be from Huaxia. She doesn't understand our language, so it's very difficult to deceive her." The yellow-haired gangster said, "It doesn't matter. I've stayed in Huaxia for a few years and know Huaxia language. At least there's no problem communicating with her." The leader of the gangsters said, "Well, I'll leave this task to you. Later, you'll trick the little girl here. As long as you succeed, you'll be rewarded heavily." The yellow-haired gangster said, "Don't worry, boss. I'm best at deceiving children." After the little fellow was full, she walked out of the sushi restaurant with the money bag in her hand. Not long after she walked out, the yellow-haired gangster ran up to her. First, he gave her a lollipop and then said, "Little sister, I'll take you to a fun place, okay?" "Okay." I was worried that I couldn't find a fun place. The little fellow agreed without hesitation. Since it was so easy to succeed, the yellow-haired gangster was ecstatic. He picked up the little fellow and walked to a remote park. The leader of the gangsters followed them closely. When they came to a corner of the park, the yellow-haired gangster looked around and saw that there was no one around. He put the little fellow on a bench, and the leader of the gangsters also surrounded them. Seeing so many people, the little fellow was not afraid at all. While eating the lollipop, she said to the yellow-haired gangster, "Where's the fun thing?" Chapter 762. The gangster leader came over arrogantly and shouted to the little fellow, "Little girl, we're robbing you, you know? Hand over the money in your hand and ask your family to send us $10 million. After that, he looked at the cute little fellow and remembered that she was a Huaxia little girl who didn't understand Japanese at all. He said to the yellow-haired boy next to him, "Hurry up and translate it for me." The yellow-haired boy quickly translated it and said to the little fellow, "Did you hear that? Our boss is robbing you. Hurry up and hand over the money." Robbing? It's fun. Hearing that these people were going to rob her, the little fellow did not feel afraid. On the contrary, she jumped up happily, then put her hands on her hips and said to the gangster leader in an aggressive manner, "Hurry up and hand over all your money." The gangster leader was angry for a moment and said with annoyance, "Little girl, I'm not playing games with you. Hurry up and give me the money, or you'll suffer." The little fellow also followed and said, "Hurry up and give me the money, or you'll suffer." The gangster leader was completely angry. He waved his hand behind him and said, "Go and get the money first." The little fellow also cried, "Go and get the money. Little girl, you're really naughty. It seems that I have to teach you a lesson." As soon as the leader of the gangsters said that, he saw a group of underlings pouncing on him. The punk rushed to the front and kicked him to the ground. Then everyone punched and kicked him, beating him like a sandbag. "You're F***ing crazy. I'm your boss. How dare you hit me? Don't you want to live?" The leader of the gangsters was shouting. But he was kicked hard in the mouth by a big foot. Several of his teeth were kicked out. This time, he didn't dare to shout anymore. He held his head with both hands and lay on the ground to be beaten. The little fellow jumped up happily and shouted happily while eating a lollipop. "Teach him a lesson. Hit him hard." Hearing her order, these gangsters beat him harder. The gangster leader kept rolling on the ground, wailing, and his head had been beaten into a pig's head. 2 minutes later, the fight was almost over. The yellow-haired gangster searched the gangster leader's wallet and bank cards, and then respectfully handed them to Tang Tang. "Big sister, this is your money. Not bad, I'll buy you some candy later," Tang Tang said like a big sister on TV. However, she felt that this was not very fun, so she removed the fox hypnosis from the gangsters. The punk came to his senses and saw a pig head suddenly appear next to him. He exclaimed, "Who the fuck are you? What are you doing here? The leader of the hooligans was full of anger. He slapped him in the face. Bastard, I'm your boss. The punk covered his mouth and exclaimed, Boss, how did you become like this? Mother asterisk her, it's all your fault. After saying that, the leader kicked the punk's stomach hard. Then, he pointed at the pile of money in front of the little fellow and shouted, What are you waiting for? Hurry up and grab the money for me. The other gangsters came to their senses and rushed up to snatch the money in front of the little fellow. But after running a few steps, these people turned around and ran away again. Once again, the leader of the gangsters was pressed to the ground and beaten again. Let go! Let go of me! The leader of the gangsters shouted desperately. But just like last time, no matter what he said, these people were like crazy, punching and kicking him constantly. A few minutes later, the punk and the others came to their senses. Seeing that they had beaten their boss again, these people were stunned and retreated one after another. The leader of the gangsters got up from the ground. His nose and mouth were covered with blood. His head was swollen like a pig's head, and his whole body was in pain. Bastards, I'm going to kill you. He was about to go mad with anger. Was there a more miserable boss than him? He had been beaten by his own men twice. Boss, don't be angry. Listen to me. The yellow-haired gangster was the first to come to his senses. He said to the leader of the gangsters, Boss, I feel that this little girl is very strange. We couldn't control ourselves at all just now. Hearing what he said, the punk and the others also shouted, Yes, boss. She seems to be able to control us. We have to do whatever she wants us to do. The leader of the gangsters had already felt that something was wrong. This time, the target of the robbery seemed to have chosen the wrong one. It was a little demon girl. He made a prompt decision and said, Then what are you waiting for? Run. But as soon as he turned around, he was kicked to the ground by the punk before he could run 2 steps. Then he was beaten again. The leader of the gangsters cried completely. He had been beaten 3 times in such a short time. How could he live like this? Well, stop. The little fellow stood on the bench. After she gave the order, the gangsters all stopped. From now on, I'm your big sister. You have to listen to me and play with me. Looking at the pink and tender little girl in front of them, the eyes of the gangsters were full of fear. Demon girl, she was a demon girl. They thought so. But they didn't dare to show anything on the surface. After all, the example of the leader of the gangsters was right there. No one wanted to be beaten for no reason. Yes, big sister, we'll listen to you. Although it was extremely difficult to say this, the leader of the gangsters still shouted in unison. But there were also some who didn't believe it. A little tattooed gangster turned around and ran away. He thought to himself, I can't afford to offend you, but can't I run away? Let's see what else you can do. But he didn't expect that before he ran far, he suddenly lost control of his body and ran back obediently. The little fellow jumped and said, Disobedient children need to be punished. Beat him for me. So the scene just now happened again, but this time, it was not the leader of the gangsters who was beaten, but the tattooed gangster. A few minutes later, a group of big men stood respectfully in front of a little girl. The scene looked a little strange. In addition to the leader of the gangsters, there was another pig head in the crowd. With the lesson learned from the tattooed gangster, the others no longer dared to act rashly. Although they all had all kinds of bad ideas in their hearts, they were more obedient than kindergarten children on the surface. This little demon girl was so evil that ordinary people couldn't compete with her at all. The little girl stretched out her white and tender little hand, pointed to the punk and cried, Come here and be my horse. The punk was suddenly dumbfounded and said with a bitter face, Big sister, why me? The little fellow said with a smile, Because your hair looks more like a horse, so you'll be my horse. At this moment, the punk hated his hair shaped to death. He swore in his heart that as long as he got rid of this little demon girl, he would immediately shave his head and never have a punk face in his life. But although he thought about it and swore, he still had to be a horse. He came to the little fellow respectfully and lay on the ground like a horse. The little fellow jumped on his back, grabbed his hair with her left hand and patted his, but with her right hand. Go run. Run. You're too slow. You're not as fast as Damao. The poor punk was already panting and sweating after running a few laps. His palms and knees had been rubbed by the stones. He fell to the ground with a plop and couldn't get up again. You're so useless. I haven't had enough fun yet. The little fellow turned to look at the yellow-haired gangster and said, Come here and continue to be my horse. On Chiba Island, Xian Yuan Ligay landed on the island with Qin Haodong and Lin Momo after flying for a while. As soon as they landed on the island, Kyochiba, Kishi Sato, and Takeda Inamoto surrounded Xian Yuan Ligay. As for Qin Haodong and Lin Momo, they didn't take them seriously at all. This was a deserted island with strong winds and waves, and there were no ships around. If they were not saints, they would not be able to leave this place at all. As long as they killed Xian Yuan Ligay, the rest of them would be meat on the chopping board. They could chop them up however they wanted. Qin Haodong strode to Yagyu Yukime and raised his hand to break the rope on her body. With the greenwood Jinyuan Qi, he instantly broke the restriction on her body. Are you hurt? Are you okay? Yagyu Yukime said anxiously, I'm fine. Master, you should leave quickly. This is a trap. Qin Haodong patted her on the shoulder and comforted her. Don't worry. I'm here. He turned around and said to Kyochiba, Where's my daughter? Kyochiba sneered and said, You're going to die. Why are you looking for your daughter? When you die, I'll let her be buried with you. After that, he shouted to Kishi Sato and Takeda Inamoto, A long delay is fraught with trouble. Hurry up and kill Xian Yuan Ligay first. After that, he pulled out the long sword on his back, and a sharp sword Chi pressed down on Xian Yuan Ligay. Kishi Sato and Takeda Inamoto also pulled out their own swords and surrounded Xian Yuan Ligay in a triangle with Kyochiba. Under the operation of the Jinyuan Qi, the swords in their hands emitted extremely sharp sword Qi. Xian Yuan Ligay didn't even pull out her long sword. She looked at the three of them and sneered. At this point, how could she not see through Kyochiba's trick? Before she met the Sacred Lord, she really couldn't compete with the three saints. Even if she could escape, she would inevitably be seriously injured. But now she had met the Sacred Lord. With the help of Qin Haodong's elixir, she had reached the middle stage of the Saint Realm. The three saints in front of her could not compete with her. She put her hands behind her back and said domineeringly, Do the three of you really think you can hurt me? Xian Yuan Ligay, don't pretend. Go to hell. After Kyochiba finished speaking, the long sword in his hand turned into a thunderbolt and directly slashed at Xian Yuan Ligay's face. Kishi Sato and Takeda Inamoto had worked with Kyochiba for many years, so they had a tacit understanding with each other. The moment Kyochiba attacked, the swords in their hands also moved. The sword light and Kyochiba's sword Chi merged into one, covering the whole world, leaving no gap. If Xian Yuan Ligay was still at the early stage of the Saint Realm, she would have been seriously injured by this blow. Xian Yuan Ligay smiled slightly and suddenly waved her sleeves outward. There was a huge gap between the early stage of the Saint Realm and the middle stage of the Saint Realm. With such a gentle movement, the three experts of Neon were sent flying backward like kites with broken strings. They began to vomit blood in the air. She had shown mercy. If it hadn't been for the sake of finding the whereabouts of the little fellow, the three of them would have killed the three old Neon masters. Kyochiba fell to the ground with a thud. After spitting out a few more mouthfuls of blood, he cried out in horror. The middle stage of the Saint Realm. You actually broke through to the middle stage of the Saint Realm? Xian Yuan Ligay smiled slightly and said, How is it? You didn't expect it, did you? Hurry up and hand me over, and I can spare your life. Kyochiba said with a sad face, I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect it. I've worked hard all my life, but I haven't been able to reach the middle stage of the Saint Realm. You actually broke through at such a young age. Why? Why is God so unfair to me? Adding more chapters for Fat Cat Rolling. Chapter 763. Xian Yuan Ligay sighed with emotion in her heart. It was too difficult to break through from the early stage of the Saint Realm to the middle stage. If she hadn't met the Sacred Master, she wouldn't have had her current cultivation. It could be said that everything in the Zihong Sword House was thanks to the Sacred Master. Qin Haodong didn't care about this. The most urgent thing now was to find his daughter. He walked up to Kyochiba and said coldly, "Old man, where is my daughter? Hand her over." "Well, I'll tell you now." Kyochiba suddenly rose into the air and stretched out two big hands like ghost claws to grab Qin Haodong's neck. He was indeed injured just now, but he was a strong man who had failed to break through to the middle stage of the Saint Realm. In terms of cultivation, he was much stronger than Kishi Sato and Takeda Inamoto, so his injury was not as serious as it seemed. The reason why he had pretended to be pitiful just now was to distract Xianyuan Ligay. Although he was injured, Qin Haodong was only a 9th-level Supreme Power Master. After all, he couldn't compete with a saint. As long as he deceived Xianyuan Ligay, he could succeed. He had already seen the importance of this young man to Xianyuan Ligay. As long as he took Qin Haodong hostage, there was still a chance to turn things around. It had to be said that he was indeed very scheming. Xianyuan Ligay had also been deceived. When she came to her senses and wanted to rescue him, it was too late. Seeing that Qin Haodong was about to fall into his hands, Kyochiba sneered. Although he had made the final arrangement, no one wanted to pay the price with their lives unless they had to. But at this moment, a huge foot appeared in front of him. Then his face seemed to have been hit by a train, and his whole body flew backward in the air. After being kicked away, Kyochiba fell to the ground and spat out mouthfuls of blood. This time he was not pretending. Qin Haodong's kick was really so heavy that his internal organs were almost displaced. You. He got up from the ground and looked at Qin Haodong in horror. The kick just now had fully demonstrated his strength. The young man in front of him was also a saint-level master, and he was extremely powerful. Compared with Xianyuan Ligay, who had broken through to the middle stage of the Saint Realm, Qin Haodong shocked him even more. It was impossible to predict what a 20-year-old saint would grow into in the future. Kishi Sato and Inamoto Aoda, who were paralyzed next to him, were also stunned. They had originally planned to surround Xianyuan Ligay with 3 people. However, they didn't expect that there would be 2 saints. However, they didn't have the strength to let the other one make a move. Xianyuan Ligay alone killed all 3 of them. Xianyuan Ligay was nervous at first, and then she breathed a sigh of relief. She was also quite shocked. After all, she was the sacred lord in the ancestral home, and her cultivation speed was much faster than that of ordinary people. Qin Haodong said to Kyochiba, "You're right. I'm also a saint, so don't have any illusions. Give my daughter back to me as soon as possible, and I can consider sparing your life." A 20-year-old saint is indeed amazing. That's why I can't let you live. Otherwise, you'll become a great threat to the Neon Nation. Chiba struggled to sit up from the ground and took out a small thing made of fine steel from his pocket. There was a red button on it. It was the button of the fire control system of the underground military base. As long as he pressed the red button, all kinds of large weapons that had been loaded would be fully fired. He was completely desperate now. Without any hesitation, he pressed the red button hard. Qin Haodong, Xianyuan Ligay, and the others all felt that something was wrong, but it was too late to stop him. In an instant, they all raised their genuine qi to the extreme and were on guard to prevent any accidents. Xianyuan Ligay had even grabbed the belts of Lin Momo and Yagyu Yukheim, ready to jump into the air at any time. At this moment, the evening sky suddenly lit up. The scene of tens of thousands of cannons firing at the same time was extremely spectacular. Countless cannonballs whistled into the sky, like shining meteors, which looked extremely bright. Seeing that the fire control system of the underground base had been activated, Kyochiba breathed a sigh of relief at first, and then his eyes suddenly widened. He found that the cannonballs did not fly to Chiba Island, but to 3 different directions in Neon, which happened to be the lair of the Chiba family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family. Then there was an earth-shattering explosion. Although it was still far away, they still felt the vibration of the ground. Seeing such dense firepower, Qin Haodong and Xianyuan Ligay were both scared out of their wits. Although they had reached the Saint Realm, if these cannonballs were to explode here, they would only be blown into ashes. After the shock, they were extremely confused. On the plane, they had studied the strength of neon in detail, and knew the distribution of the three great families like the back of their hands. These cannonballs happened to be flying toward the three great families. Under such a dense attack, no matter how strong the three great families were, and how many masters they had, it was impossible for them to survive. Everyone could see that all this was caused by Kyochiba. What was going on? What was he going to do? Qin Haodong turned around and said, "Old man, who are you trying to scare by hurting yourself?" "Hurting myself?" Kyochiba realized that he had destroyed the Chiba family with his own hands, as well as the Sato family and the Inamoto family. Before he made this plan to die together with them, he was still very calm, because even if the three of them died, the strength of the three great families was still there, and Neon could still rise in the future. But now everything had changed. For some reason, the dam underground base had destroyed the three families. What hope did they have in the future? Thinking of this, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood again. He fell to the ground with a plop and fainted. Kishisato and Inamoto Aota's lifelong efforts, relatives and descendants were all in their family base. Now seeing their family being destroyed, their eyes suddenly turned red. They jumped up like crazy and rushed to Kyochiba, who had fainted. "Bastard, is this your perfect plan? How dare you destroy my family? I'll fight you to the death." The two of them punched and kicked Kyochiba. Fortunately, they were seriously injured and could not raise their cultivation. Otherwise, they could have smashed Kyochiba with one palm. Kyochiba woke up from his coma. At this time, he had lost his mind and immediately fought with the two of them to vent his anger. "That's enough." Qin Haodong kicked the three of them away and said coldly, "I don't have time to waste with you. Hand over my daughter as soon as possible." Kishisato got up from the ground and looked at Qin Haodong with a crazy expression. He shouted, "My family is gone. What hope do I have to live on? Kill me, kill me. Then go to hell." Qin Haodong raised his hand and waved. The Xianyuan sword directly cut off Kishisato's neck, and blood spurted out. The three of them were all saint-level masters with strong spiritual power, so he did not dare to use mind manipulating at will. He could only interrogate them in this way. Perhaps the death of their companion stimulated the nerves of the other two people. Kyochiba and Takeda Inamoto immediately calmed down a lot. Qin Haodong put the Xianyuan sword on Kyochiba's neck and said, "Tell me, where is my daughter?" In the park, the little fellow was having a good time. She rode on a group of gangsters one by one. In the end, these people couldn't crawl anymore. She returned to the bench, pointed at the leader of the gangsters and said, "Dance for me." The leader of the gangsters said with a painful expression, "Big sister, I really don't know how to dance. Please spare me." He was so regretful now. If he had known this would happen, he would not have kidnapped this little witch. Wasn't he courting death? The little fellow waved her hand and said, "You don't know how to dance, do you? Beat him." Hearing that he was going to be beaten again, the leader of the gangsters was completely scared. If he continued to be beaten like this, he would definitely be beaten to death. He hurriedly shouted, "I can dance. I can dance. Big sister, what kind of dance do you want to see?" The little fellow said, "Just dance a duckling for me." The leader of the gangsters didn't know how to dance. He would just twist a few times in the bar and dance hall. At this time, when he heard the little fellow order a duckling, he immediately said with a bitter face, "Big sister, why don't you call the police? Don't torture me. We'll admit to kidnapping and let the police take us away, okay?" The little fellow said, "No, you haven't danced for me yet. Even if you call the police, you have to wait until I've seen enough of your dance." The leader of the gangsters had a helpless look on his face. He had no choice but to jump up. He didn't know how to dance a duck, so he could only learn to walk like a duck and make a duck's cry. Seeing this scene, the little fellow giggled and barely managed to get away with it. The leader of the gangsters breathed a sigh of relief. There was really no one else who could be as good as him. At this time, He hated the adults in the child's family. Why didn't they keep an eye on such a little witch and let her run out to hurt people? Yan Feifei, Feng Wu, and other saint-level experts began to search the entire Neon. Fortunately, the area was not too large. The 10 saints divided into different areas and soon searched most of the area. Hu Shaoxian was in charge of the northern Sichuan line. She was flying in the sky when she suddenly felt the breath of the little fellow. She immediately flew in the direction of the park. When she landed in the park, the little fellow was sitting on a bench, eating a lollipop and watching the leader of the gangsters dance. She giggled from time to time and did not look like she had been kidnapped at all. Hu Shaoxian breathed a sigh of relief. She finally found the girl. She walked over and said, "Tang Tang, what are you doing?" When the little fellow saw Hu Shaoxian, she cried out excitedly, "Auntie Shaoxian, look, this person's dance is so ugly." Seeing that the little witch's family had finally arrived, the leader of the gangsters was so excited that he burst into tears. He threw himself in front of Hu Shaoxian, hugged her feet and cried, "Miss, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have kidnapped your daughter. Please call the police. I can't stand it anymore." Hu Shaoxian was shocked and kicked the guy away. Then she said to the little fellow, "Tang Tang, what did you do to him?" The little fellow said innocently, "Nothing. They said they would take me here to have fun, so I played games with them." When Hu Shaoxian was about to say something, the sky was suddenly filled with countless cannonballs. The flashes illuminated the night sky, followed by a violent explosion. The ground under their feet began to tremble violently. Looking at the shining night sky, the little fellow cried out excitedly, "Auntie Shaoxian, who set off these fireworks? They are so beautiful." As a member of the Xianyuan Pavilion, Hu Shaoxian naturally knew what was going on. This was not fireworks at all, but a large area of firepower. Was there a war in Neon? Thinking of this, she did not dare to stay any longer. If this place was also covered by firepower, it would be too dangerous. She quickly picked up the little fellow and rose into the air. Then she shot a signal flare into the night sky. This was what they had agreed before. No matter who found Tang Tang, they had to send a signal to the sky so that everyone could gather quickly. Chapter 764. Seeing that Hu Shaoxian had taken the little fellow away, the leader of the gangsters and his men knelt on the ground with a plop and kept kowtowing to the sky. In their eyes, she was a living bodhisattva who had come to save them. She had taken away the little monster who had tortured people to death. On Chiba Island, Qin Haodong was thinking about how to ask the 2 old men about Tang Tang's whereabouts when he suddenly saw a signal rising in the distance. Since his people had found the little fellow, there was no need to talk nonsense with these 2 old men. With a slight shake of his wrist, the Xianyuan sword instantly pierced the throats of Kyo Chiba and Takeda Inamoto. Although it was better to have more masters to fight against the alien demons, it was better not to have such an ally who could stab him in the back at any time. After killing the 3 people, he gently waved his sleeve, and an invisible force carried the bodies of Kyo Chiba, Takeda Inamoto, and Kishi Sato into the sea. The 3 Saint Realm masters who had once been famous in Neon ended up being fed to the fish in the sea because of a wrong decision. After solving the trouble here, Qin Haodong said to Yagyu Yukheim, "Will you go to Huaxia with me?" Yagyu Yukheim hesitated for a moment and finally shook her head. "After I'm caught, the Chiba family will definitely plot to annex the Yagyu family. There are still many people loyal to me there. I can't leave them alone. Moreover, if I stay in Neon, I can accumulate more strength for my master." Qin Haodong said, "But won't you be in danger after these 3 people died?" Yagyu Yukheim shook her head and said, "It would be troublesome if they were alive. Now that they are dead, the highest cultivation in the whole Neon is the 9th level of the Supreme Power Realm. I have nothing to be afraid of." Qin Haodong nodded and said, "Well, I'll send you back now. If there's any danger, send me a message immediately." He asked Xianyuan Legate to take Lin Momo to meet the little fellow first, and then he would arrive later. Then he stepped on the Xian Yuan sword with Yagyu Yukime and flew toward the Yagyu family like a meteor. Seeing that Qin Haodong was even faster than her, Xian Yuan Legay secretly admired him. The sacred master was indeed the sacred master. He could actually fly on a sword. After sighing, she took Lin Momo to the direction of Hu Xiaoxian's signal. In the Yagyu family, Yagyu Shiro was arrogantly admonishing the people of the Yagyu family with his saber on his back. I'm telling you, Yagyu Yukime must die. You either submit to our Chiba family or die. From now on, the Yagyu family will no longer exist. At that moment, a cold shout came from behind the door. Who dares to boast shamelessly about destroying the Yagyu family? As soon as she finished speaking, Qin Haodong and Yagyu Yukime walked in from outside. After seeing Yagyu Yukime, the depressed Yagyu family members immediately became excited. Since the family master had returned, it meant that there was still hope for the Yagyu family. After Qin Haodong entered the door, he immediately felt the aura of the little fellow from Shirochiba. Although it was very weak, it still could not escape the perception of his spirit. Did you steal my daughter? Seeing Yagyu Yukime enter the door, Shirochiba was shocked, but he was not too panicked. Both of them were level 9 Supreme Power Masters, and the gap in their cultivation was not too big. But after recognizing Qin Haodong, he completely panicked. He was very clear about Kyochiba's plan. Since the family master had already set up a plan to kill him, how could this Huaxia man still be standing here alive? Because this place was far away from Chiba Island, he did not hear the movement over there. So he did not know what had happened. You, why are you here? Where's our family master? Do you mean Kyochiba? I'll send you to see him now. After Qin Haodong finished speaking, a golden light flashed, and the Xian Yuan sword instantly pierced through Shirochiba's chest. He would never let anyone who dared to touch his daughter live in this world. At the same time, Yagyu Yukime also led her people to eliminate all the remaining forces of the Chiba family. After solving the problem of the Yagyu family, Qin Haodong stepped into the air again. When he arrived at Hu Xiaoxian's side, the others had already arrived. Everyone returned to Huaxia together. In the Neon military headquarters, Aiwa Miura stood there in a daze after seeing the dense artillery fire instantly destroy the Chiba family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family. What the hell is going on? What did I do? He didn't dare to think about the serious consequences of destroying the three great families in an instant. No, it's an enemy attack. He suddenly realized that all this must have happened because the underground base had been invaded. Thinking of this, he immediately deployed troops and sent people to surround the entire underground base. But when he arrived here, everything was calm, and there was no sign of being occupied by the enemy. What the hell is going on? Aiwa Miura rushed into the fire control center with his men. Jiro Ono was watching the scene of the fierce attack on the big screen, and he was very excited. Such a large-scale attack had not happened for a long time. Moreover, this time, he performed very well and completed the task assigned by his superiors in an instant. He believed that he would definitely be rewarded by the military headquarters. Just as he was jumping with joy, he saw Aiwa Miura rushing in with his men. Hello, sir. In his excitement, Jiro Ono did not notice that Aiwa Miura was in a bad mood. He took his men and gave him a standard military salute. Aiwa Miura glared at Jiro Ono and shouted sternly, "What the hell is going on? You give me an explanation." Explanation? What explanation? Jiro Ono said with a confused face. Sir, what happened? Aiwa Miura felt that his lungs were about to explode. How dare he ask him after causing such a big trouble? He shouted angrily, "Let me ask you, why did you fire at the Chiba family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family?" Jiro Ono said innocently, "Didn't I arrange it according to your instructions?" Aiwa Miura slapped him in the face and shouted angrily, "You bastard! When did I ask you to attack the Miura family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family? Don't you know that the three families are the backbone of the empire?" The slap was so heavy that a bright red handprint appeared on Jiro Ono's face. He stood there and did not dare to move, but he said with great grievance, "Sir, I did it according to your orders." Awa Miura was so angry that he said angrily, "You bastard! When did I ask you to bomb the 3 families?" Jiro Ono said, "That's what you marked on the map. I asked you why you wanted to bomb the Chiba family at that time. You said that the 3 families had to sacrifice for the empire. I thought it was part of your plan, so I arranged the firepower." "Bastard, I'm talking about the sacrifice of the Chiba family. I'm talking about Chiba Island. The 3 families are sacrificing themselves because the patriarchs of the 3 families want to die together with the enemy. When did I ask you to completely destroy the foundation of the 3 families?" Awa Miura roared angrily. "And are you blind? I've marked the attack points on the map. Don't you even know this common sense?" Jiro Ono said with great grievance, "Sir, I arranged the firepower according to the attack points marked on the map." "That's impossible. Show me the map." "Yes, sir." Jiro Ono agreed and showed the map of firepower that Awa Miura had sent to him on the big screen. Awa Miura took a look at the map and saw that the attack point was clearly marked on Chiba Island. He immediately breathed a sigh of relief. If it was really his fault, he would not only lose his position, but also be put in prison. Knowing that it was not his fault, he roared again, "Bastard, the attack points are marked so clearly. Why did you attack the 3 families? Were you bribed by the Huaxia people? That's why you betrayed our empire." Hearing this, Jiro Ono trembled with fear. It was a big crime to defect to the enemy and commit treason. If he was really accused of this, he would be sent to the military court. The final result would be death. "Sir, look carefully. I arranged the firepower according to the position you marked." As he spoke, he pointed to the Chiba family on the map and said, "Look at how clearly this position is marked. It's a red cross. Isn't this the mark of attack?" Awa Miura couldn't believe his ears when he heard his words. "What did you say? Say it again." "I said that this is the attack signal you set up. It's a red cross." "It's very clear." "Nonsense." Awa Miura slapped Jiro Ono in the face again. "Are you F*** crazy? This is obviously a green check mark, which is a sign that any military action is prohibited. How dare you regard it as a sign of military attack? Is your brain a pig's head?" Jiro Ono staggered. When he stood up straight, he said stubbornly again, "I'm not convinced. This is obviously a red cross. Why did you say it's a green check mark? Are you trying to frame me?" F***CKU. Awa Miura was so angry that he raised his leg and kicked Jiro Ono to the ground. Then he called a soldier, pointed to the map on the big screen and said, "Tell him, what is this?" The soldier, who had been standing by and watching, was completely confused. His superior had had a dispute with the military officer last time, and the focus of the dispute was the check mark and the wrong mark. It was such a simple question, but now he had to stand out and identify it. What should he do? Seeing that the soldier did not speak, Awa Miura became angrier and angrier. "I asked you to speak. Are you F***king deaf? Hurry up and tell me the truth. Tell me how you saw it." The soldier hesitated for a moment, and finally decided to tell the truth. He pointed to the mark on the wall and said, "Sir, this is a red cross. It's called the wrong mark in mathematics. It's our military attack signal. Officer Ono didn't make any mistakes." Awa Miura almost choked on his own saliva. It was obviously a green check mark. Why did these 2 people insist that it was a red cross? Were these people crazy? He was sure that this man was Jiro Ono's trusted subordinate, and the 2 of them had colluded together. He kicked the soldier away again, grabbed another one from the side, and asked, "What do you think this is?" "Sir, this is a red cross." Awa Miura's heart collapsed. Why did 3 people say the same thing in a row? He raised his finger to the red cross marked on the Chiba Island and asked, "What is this?" "Sir, this is a green check mark." F***CKU. Damn it. Awa Miura kicked the soldier away. And then he asked all the soldiers in the control center one after another. Everyone insisted that the mark on the map was a red cross. Awa Miura stood in front of the big screen and was completely dumbfounded. At this moment, he felt that his worldview had collapsed. Could it be that he had made a mistake? Was the mark marked by the 3 great families really an attack signal? Soon, The senior officials of Neon thoroughly investigated the attack, and the final result was a little shocking. Aiwa Miura and Jiro Ono were not sent to the military court. Instead, they were sent to a mental hospital in a very strange way. It was said that it was because they couldn't figure out whether it was a check mark or a wrong mark. Chapter 765. After Qin Haodong and the others returned to Huaxia, Xianyuan Ligay directly took the four elders back to the Xianyuan pavilion, and the people of the Tang sect returned to the Tang sect. Knowing that the lost children of the Tang sect had finally been found, the 7 great families in the capital secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Through this incident, they once again recognized the powerful strength of the Tang sect. It was not an exaggeration to say that there were many masters. If the Tang sect really got angry, none of them would be able to bear it. In the hall of the Tang sect, Chu Xianyue was sitting in the middle of the living room with her granddaughter in her arms, surrounded by others. Lin Momo said, "Tang Tang, tell me quickly. Did they bully you? Did you suffer?" No, Mama, I had a good time." Speaking of this, the little fellow looked unsatisfied, as if she felt that the kidnapping trip had ended too quickly. Lin Momo scolded her. "Don't talk nonsense. How can you be happy when you are kidnapped?" "It's true, Mama." The little fellow began to talk about her experience vividly, starting from when she opened her eyes in Neon. When she talked about the way she gave lessons to the people in the fire control center, she giggled. "Papa, don't you think it's fun for those people to put a cross on the right questions and a check mark on the wrong ones when judging their children's homework?" Qin Haodong scolded her. "Tang Tang, you're too naughty." Hu Xiaoxian raised her hand to stop Qin Haodong and shouted, "Wait a minute, I seem to understand what's going on." Qin Haodong said, "What do you mean? Look at you acting all jumpy. I understand why the Neon people hurt themselves." Along the way, they had been discussing one thing, which was why Kyo Chiba wanted to bomb his family's residence. After discussing for a long time, no one figured out what was going on. Now hearing Hu Xiaoxian's words, Qin Haodong asked, "Have you found the reason?" Hu Xiaoxian said, "When I was on a mission in the Xianyuan pavilion, I once studied the fire control map of Neon. They generally mark the target with a red cross, and mark the target with a green tick mark for the target that must not be touched." Speaking of this, Qin Haodong seemed to understand. "You mean that the little fellow used fox hypnosis to change these people's understanding of symbols, so that they regarded the red cross as a forbidden target, and the location of the green tick as the target of attack?" Hu Xiaoxian said, "That must be the case. Otherwise, there's no way to explain the attack of the freaks. The Chiba family, the Sato family, and the Inamoto family had a high status in Neon, so they must have marked signs that forbade attacks. After the little fellow taught these signs, the soldiers at the fire control base regarded them as signs of attack and concentrated their firepower there. As for the Chiba island that Kyo Chiba was going to attack, it became a forbidden place, so he avoided the disaster. Lin Momo said with a look of horror, "Do you mean that Kyo Chiba originally wanted to make Chiba Island the target of attack, but because of Tang Tang's nonsense, we escaped the disaster?" Qin Haodong said, "That's right. Kyo Chiba was ready to die with us. Once he couldn't control us, he would ask the military to blow up the entire Chiba Island. At that time, even a master of the Saint Realm would not be able to escape. It's a pity that his last blow was destroyed by Tang Tang." Hearing them talking and mentioning her name, the little fellow was a little nervous. "Papa, did I do something wrong? Are you going to punish me?" Qin Haodong quickly picked up the little fellow and kissed her hard on the cheek. "This time, Tang Tang has made a great contribution. Everyone should thank Tang Tang." After hearing the explanation they had speculated, the others were secretly shocked. This time, it was really thanks to the little fellow's help. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. The next day, everything was calm. Qin Haodong and Su Hui went to the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine together. Not long after the clinic opened, they heard a commotion outside. They came to the door, and saw a red BMW Z4 parked in front of the door. In front of the car, there were yellow roses as the edge and red roses as the core, forming a huge heart shape. In front of the flowers in the car stood a young man in a suit and leather shoes. He held the car with one hand and made a pose with the other, which he thought was very handsome. After Su Hui came out, the man immediately said excitedly, "Hui Hui, I prepared these for you. What do you think? Do you like them?" Qin Haodong understood. It turned out that this guy had made such a big noise to steal his woman. Then a playful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. This guy came to steal his woman, so he had to do something. When Su Hui saw the young man, a look of disgust flashed across her face. "Sun Bowie, I've already told you that I have a boyfriend. Please don't bother me anymore, okay?" Sun Bowie said, "Hui Hui, don't lie to me. I've noticed that you've always been alone for so long. When have you ever had a boyfriend?" Qin Haodong took 2 steps forward and said with a smile, "Dude, I'm here. Can't you see me?" Su Hui reached out and took Qin Haodong's arm. "Do you believe me this time? I do have a boyfriend. Please don't come here again." Sun Bowie was stunned. He didn't expect that Su Hui really had a boyfriend, but he still said, "Hui Hui, I'm absolutely sincere to you. As long as you're not married, I will always pursue you." Qin Haodong glanced at him and said with a smile, "How? Are you going to use these wilted roses?" A wilted rose. Hearing this, Sun Bowie was a little stunned. These roses were the freshest ones he had bought at a high price. How could they be wilted? But when he looked down, he was dumbfounded. He saw that the 999 roses in the shape of a heart were all wilted at this time. They didn't look like flowers at all. "Bastard, how dare these people in the flower shop lie to me?" Sun Bowie scolded fiercely. In his opinion, the people in the flower shop must have done something to the flowers. They looked fresh, but now they were withered quickly. He raised his head and said to Su Hui, "I'm sorry, Hui Hui. I was cheated by those people, but it doesn't matter. I bought this car for you. It's the BMW Z4 with the highest configuration. I think this car is really a good match for you." Speaking of this, his face was full of confidence again. This BMW Z4 had cost him 1,000,000 yuan. He believed that it would definitely win the heart of the beautiful woman. But at this time, Qin Haodong said, "Dude, is this a second-hand car bought from the old goods market? It doesn't look like a new car at all. The car is scratched and the tires are flat. Are you going to give this kind of car to Hui Hui?" "That's impossible. This is a new car I just bought from the 4S shop." Sun Bowie looked back and his eyes almost fell to the ground. He saw that the 4 wheels of the BMW Z4 he had just bought were completely out of gas. The whole car was lying on the ground, which looked extremely strange. There were scratches on the body of the car, which looked extremely miserable. It didn't look like a new car at all. "My car. Who the hell touched my car?" Although Sun Bowie was also rich, he was not a rich young master who spent money like water. Looking at the miserable BMW Z4 in front of him, he felt extremely distressed. At this time, many people had gathered around to watch the fun. When they saw Sun Bowie's car, they immediately began to whisper to each other, "Who is this? He looks well dressed. How could he use such a shabby second-hand car to chase after a woman? It's so shameful." "That's right. It's an old rose and a second-hand car. If I were a girl, I wouldn't agree. Dude, hurry up and go back. Remember to be generous when you chase after a woman in the future. Dr. Su is so beautiful. How could you like such a thing?" Facing the roars and sarcasm around him, Sun Bowie cried out in annoyance, "My car is new. I don't know who did this to it. If I find out, I'll definitely kill him." Qin Haodong smiled and took Su Hui's hand back to the clinic. After entering the clinic, Su Hui quickly explained, "Don't think too much. I don't know him at all. I just met him in the wholesale market of medicinal materials a few days ago. I didn't expect that he would keep coming after me. I don't know where he found my phone number a few days ago, but he kept calling me. Today he came to my door again." Qin Haodong held her delicate face and kissed her gently on the forehead. "Don't worry. I'm not the kind of man who gets jealous easily. Besides, someone is chasing after my woman. which means that my woman is attractive. Seeing that Qin Haodong was not angry, Su Hui was relieved. Haodong, what did you do just now? She naturally knew that Sun Bowie must have brought flowers and a new car. It must have something to do with Qin Haodong's sudden change. It's just a little trick, Qin Haodong said with a smile. Since he dares to steal my woman, I naturally have to make him pay the price. It was normal for a beautiful girl to be pursued, so Qin Haodong did not go too far just now. He just embarrassed Sun Bowie in public and lost some money. The two of them continued to operate the clinic and treated the patients. After a while, Sun Bowie came in again, but his clothes had changed a lot. He took off his suit and put on a long robe. Su Hui frowned, stared at him and said, "Are you done? Why are you here again?" Sun Bowie hurriedly said, "I promise you that it was just an accident. I really bought flowers and a new car. I didn't expect it to be like that. Give me some time. I promise I'll replace them with new ones tomorrow." Su Hui said, "Your car and flowers have nothing to do with me. Go find another woman. I really have a boyfriend." "Hui Hui, I know you're not a materialistic girl, so I have to introduce myself again." Sun Bowie straightened his back and said, "My name is Sun Bowie. I'm 28 years old. My grandfather is Sun Fengqing of the Medicine King Clinic. I've learned medical skills from my grandfather since I was a child, so I'm also a Chinese medicine practitioner, an outstanding one." The Medicine King Clinic? That's the most famous Chinese medicine clinic in the capital. I also know Master Sun Fengqing. He's known as the Medicine King. It's said that he's the descendant of Sun Simiao. His medical skills are amazing, but it's a pity that there are too many people who come to see him. We can't even get a chance. This young man is the grandson of the Medicine King. It seems that his medical skills are not bad. After hearing his introduction, the surrounding patients immediately whispered to each other and talked about it. After hearing these people's praise, Sun Bowie's face flashed with pride. "Hui Hui, on behalf of the Medicine King Clinic, I invite you. As long as you're willing, you can work in our clinic tomorrow. Your annual salary is 1 million yuan. What do you think?" Chapter 766. After hearing his words, the patients, who had just calmed down, began to get restless again. "Oh my God, an annual salary of 1 million yuan. Why can't I be so lucky? Don't even think about it. Do you have Miss Su's medical skills? What do you know? She values not only your medical skills, but also your appearance." Sun Bowie became more and more complacent. He really couldn't find a reason for Su Hui to refuse. Such a small clinic could only make 200,000 or 300,000 yuan a year. How could she refuse the temptation of an annual salary of 1 million yuan? "I'm sorry, I don't want to." Su Hui's words directly brought Sun Bowie back to reality. "Why? Do you think the salary is too low? If you think the annual salary of 1 million yuan is too low, I can give you more." Su Hui said, "It's not about money. I run my own clinic well. There's no need for me to work for others." Sun Bowie said, "Since you don't want to leave the clinic, it's easy. I can hang a sign of the branch of the Medicine King Clinic here. I can guarantee that the number of your customers will increase by more than 10 times, and you will have endless money every day." Su Hui put down the pen in her hand, looked at him and said, "I told you that it's not about money. I'll open my own clinic with my own ability, and I don't want to rely on anyone's help. If there's nothing else, please go back. Don't affect my treatment of the patients." "Hui Hui, listen to me." Seeing that he was pestering her, Su Hui couldn't help getting annoyed even though she was calm. She said, "Sun Bowie, I'll tell you again. I have nothing to do with you, and you can't call me Hui Hui." Qin Haodong patted Su Hui on the shoulder and said, "Hui Hui, don't be angry with such a person. It's unnecessary." Sun Bowie was about to explode with anger. He was not allowed to call her Hui Hui, but Qin Haodong immediately came over to call her Hui Hui. Wasn't it obvious that he was humiliating him? "Hui, Su Hui, I know you don't like money, but you can directly learn medical skills from my grandpa in our Medicine King Clinic. You know, my grandpa is the best traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in Huaxia. If you learn from him, you will definitely improve your level quickly, which is something that many people can't even dream of. His grandfather, Sun Fengqing, was indeed one of the best in the field of traditional Chinese medicine. He was even known as the king of medicine in the capital. There were so many people who wanted to be his apprentice. Therefore, he played this card, thinking that Su Hui, who loved traditional Chinese medicine, would definitely be tempted. Su Hui said, "Sun Bowie, let me tell you, if you want to learn traditional Chinese medicine, I have a good teacher around me. His medical skills are 10 times better than your grandfather's." Sun Bowie said, "Su Hui, don't be angry. My grandfather is the king of medicine, the best Chinese medicine practitioner in Huaxia. No one can surpass him in medical skills." Su Hui sneered and said, "The best traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in Huaxia? I don't think so." Sun Bowie was not convinced and said, "Do you think someone is better than my grandfather in medical skills?" "Yes," Qin Haodong said happily. "It's me." Su Hui said, "That's right. My boyfriend's medical skills are much better than your grandfather's. There's no need to learn from others." Looking at Qin Haodong, Sun Bowie's eyes were full of disdain. "Su Hui, don't be deceived. Our traditional Chinese medicine practitioners are all about the accumulation of experience and qualifications. People like me, who learned medical skills from my grandfather since I was a child, didn't make any achievements until I was 18 years old. He's so young. I'm afraid he hasn't even memorized the soup song. How can he be compared with my grandfather? I'm afraid he's not even as good as me." Speaking of this, he looked proud. In the field of traditional Chinese medicine in the capital, he had been called a prodigy since he was a child, and the whole Medicine King Clinic had high hopes for him. In private, he was even called the Young Medicine King. However, in Su Hui's eyes, Qin Haodong was unparalleled. He was the unique medical sage in the world. Even if the other party was the Medicine King, he could not compare with her man. So after Sun Bowie finished speaking, her face immediately darkened. "Sun Bowie, you're too arrogant. You can't even compare with a corner of my man. That's impossible." Of course, Sun Bowie would not be convinced by a young man in his 20s. In his opinion, Qin Haodong had deceived Su Hui with his appearance. He said, "Hui Hui, you don't know how outstanding I am. I learned traditional Chinese medicine from my grandfather when I was 5 years old. At the age of 8, I could recite the soup song fluently. At the age of 10, I could accurately identify all the acupoints of the human body. At the age of 18, I was able to treat patients on my own. After the age of 20, I won countless honors. I've been commended by Director Yang of the Sanitary Bureau. What does he have? How can he compare with me? Commendation? I have one too." As Qin Haodong spoke, he slapped a red book on the table in front of him. Sun Bowie looked down and saw that it was the Best Medical Contribution Award, and below it was the Ministry of Health of Huaxia. He had just said that he had been commended by the Sanitary Bureau, but Qin Haodong took out a prize from the Ministry of Health in the blink of an eye, and the level was much higher than his verbal commendation. Although he was shocked, he couldn't lose face in front of the goddess he liked. He added, "Su Hui, the commendation is not real. Last year, I was rated as an excellent traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. Only 100 people in the capital enjoy this honor. Honor? I have another one." As Qin Haodong spoke, he slapped another book on the table. Sun Bowie looked down and saw the words National Master of Traditional Chinese Medicine written on it. It was still issued by the Ministry of Health of Huaxia. Sun Bowie's face was burning. How could he be so humiliated? He had just said that he was an excellent traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in the city, but Qin Haodong directly gave him a National Master of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Boy, don't be too arrogant. These official things don't mean anything. My grandfather is the king of medicine in Huaxia. I learned medicine from my grandfather and have treated countless people since I was a child. I'm called the Little King of Medicine. The reputation among the people is the most authentic." "The reputation among the people? I have another one." Qin Haodong stood up and said in a mocking tone, "It seems that I can't keep a low profile. I have to introduce myself. I'm Qin Haodong. And I also have a nickname in the field of traditional Chinese medicine, medical sage. What? You're the medical sage Qin Haodong? As a member of a traditional Chinese medicine family, it was impossible for Sun Bowie not to have heard of the medical sage. When he heard that the young man in front of him was the famous medical sage, he was so shocked that he opened his mouth wide. Half a month ago, he met Su Hui in the traditional Chinese medicine market. At that time, he was shocked and vowed to win this girl's heart. However, he did not expect that his rival in love was so powerful. He turned out to be the medical sage of Huaxia. However, when he thought of his grandfather's evaluation of Qin Haodong, he calmed down a lot. After hearing the name of the medical sage for the first time, and the blood revival elixir that could completely cure leukemia, Sun Fengqing, the king of medicine, made such an evaluation. He said that it was impossible for such a young man to have such amazing medical skills, let alone the title of medical sage. The blood revival elixir must have been developed by the elixir recipe left by his ancestors, not by his own efforts. Thinking of this, he summoned up his courage again and said to Qin Haodong, "Do you dare to compete with me in medical skills? If you lose, you will leave Su Hui. If I lose, I will quit immediately and never step into the Donghui Clinic of traditional Chinese medicine again." Qin Haodong said, "Do you want to make a bet? Well, you take out 10 million yuan. If I lose, I don't want the 10 million yuan. If you win, you can take it away." Sun Bowie said angrily, "Are you out of your mind? The 10 million yuan is mine. Why should I bet with you? It's good that you understand this. Su Hui is mine. Why should I bet with you?" After saying that, Qin Haodong kissed Su Hui on the cheek. Su Hui suddenly blushed. She raised her hand and gently punched him in the chest. "What are you doing? There are so many people here." "You." Sun Bowie was so angry that he was speechless and could not say a word. This man is really unreasonable. Look at how loving Dr. Qin and Dr. Su are. How dare he bet with Dr. Qin's girlfriend? I really don't know what he is thinking. That's right. Is this man out of his mind? He said that he is from the Medicine King Clinic. I think he is really a disgrace to the old Medicine King. Sun Bowie said angrily. "Qin Haodong, in my opinion, you are just fishing for fame. Well, I'll take out 10 million yuan. And you will also take out 10 million yuan. How about we make a bet?" Qin Haodong shook his head again and said, "That's enough. You can leave now. If your grandfather is here, you are not qualified to compete with me in medical skills. You don't dare to? You can think whatever you want." Qin Haodong really didn't take Sun Bowie seriously. If any Tom, Dick, or Harry could stand up to challenge his medical skills, then his title of medical sage would be too worthless. "You." Sun Bowie's face was full of anger. Suddenly, he seemed to have made up his mind. He stepped to another empty table next to him and sat down. "It's fine if you don't dare to compete with me. Today, I'll show you some of my skills and show you my medical skills." He said to the patients present, "I'm Sun Bowie from the Medicine King Clinic. Anyone who wants to see a doctor can come to me. I can treat you for free." Seeing that he was treating patients in her clinic, Su Hui stood up and said, "Sun Bowie, this is my place. Why are you treating patients here? Get out of here." "Su Hui, don't worry about me. I just want to show this guy who doesn't deserve his reputation." He wanted to treat patients here for two purposes. One was to show Qin Haodong's prestige, and the other was to show Su Hui his medical skills, so as to win her heart. Su Hui was about to say something when Qin Haodong stopped her and said, "Forget it, Hui Hui. We don't need to pay for free labor. Let him see if he wants to." Seeing that Qin Haodong didn't object, Su Hui didn't stop him. The patients present were not from the traditional Chinese medicine world, so they didn't know much about the medical sage. But they knew very well about the Medicine King Clinic, which was born and raised in the capital. Today, the young Medicine King would treat patients for free. These people immediately lined up in front of Sun Bowie, while Qin Haodong and Su Hui were free. Sun Bowie glanced at Qin Haodong proudly and said, "See? This is fame. Go ahead. If there are any difficult miscellaneous diseases that you can't treat, come to me." Qin Haodong was not angry at all. He made 2 bowls of fragrant tea, gave one to Su Hui, and kept the other for himself. Sun Bowie snorted and began to treat the patients in front of him. He was very busy feeling the pulse, asking for diagnosis, performing acupuncture, and writing prescriptions. As the heir of the Medicine King Clinic, his medical skills were much better than those of his peers. He was comparable to an old Chinese medicine doctor, who had been famous for many years. Moreover, he was very fast. In less than an hour, he had seen more than a dozen patients in succession. At this time, a young woman in her 30s came in. She was not beautiful, but the curve of her chest was a little exaggerated. It was estimated that she would not be able to see her toes if she didn't lower her head. She was the kind of meat that made men salivate. She was a beautiful woman. This chapter is for readers who have monthly votes. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.